Chapter 875. The 7 Great Life-Restricted Regions, every single one of them a land of death. Only those who entered could come out and not many people could return alive. This was especially true for the desolate ancient abyss. The body of an aging person was innately at odds with immortal ascension. Not only could one not live forever, it would instead cause one to die of old age quickly. However, right now there was someone carrying out a world-shocking battle. All types of divine chains of order were like bright phoenix feathers, piercing through heaven and earth, piercing through all directions. The shockwaves reached the outside world, making heaven and earth collapse. Who exactly is it? Yi Fan and the others were shocked to the extreme. They quickly ran through the primordial mountain ridge, circling around the life-restricted regions to observe. They found a vantage point, avoiding the obstruction of the 9 sacred mountains. They flew high into the sky and looked forward. They immediately sensed a terrifying aura that covered heaven and earth. What terrifying power! Above that abyss, it can obliterate all divine laws and Tao power, yet now there are such powerful fluctuations. Just what kind of powerful existence is this? Even the Black Emperor was horrified. Someone is fighting a great battle against the desolate slaves. Yi Fan said with a sunken voice. They all seemed to be holding their breaths. What kind of cultivation was this? What kind of boldness did this person have to dare unleash a massacre on the 9 sacred mountains? A vigorous figure was moving about. He wore battle clothes that even covered his head. He was as fast as lightning, sinking into the desolate ancient abyss in one moment, and then appearing on these sacred mountains' cliffs in the next. Just how fast was this? The monkey immediately broke out in a cold sweat. He felt the pressure suddenly rise. Even though he was so far away, he still felt a great fear. Meanwhile, he had long slashed the Immortal 3 times. Who was that? Everyone was shocked, all of them in a daze. Several desolate slaves took action together, yet they were unable to do anything. Even Huang's power can't suppress that person's Tao laws? How can he fight a great battle in the desolate ancient forbidden land? Why isn't his physical body reduced to that of an ordinary person? Do you all see that? Those desolate slaves are all overflowing with magical power. They are like divine phoenixes that were born from flames. That type of aura doesn't seem like puppets at all. They have their own intelligence. That person's power has been greatly weakened. Otherwise he would be many times more powerful than he is now. This is truly unbelievable. He wasn't destroyed by Huang. Yi Fan, Pang Bo Jizue, and the Black Emperor were all shocked to the extreme. They couldn't help but mutter. This was something rarely seen throughout history. How could a person be so powerful to fight in the desolate forbidden land? Was he the great sage or quasi-emperor? Otherwise he definitely wouldn't stand a chance. Even the monkey was stupefied, sensing that type of unmatched terrifying aura. There were people fighting here, no different from slaughtering their way into Origin Ancient Mine, similarly a restricted area. The monkey didn't know much about the ancient desolate forbidden land, but it was full of reverence towards Origin Ancient Mine. Even in the archaic era that was a secret land. Has the world really changed? What kind of terrifying person has appeared? Does he really belong to this world? He can't be from the outside world, right? Pang Bo was the first to think of this. Back then they rode 9 dragons pulling coffins and appeared above the abyss. Could it be that there was someone like them crossing the star domain and entering this world? Everyone felt that this was reasonable. This was quite possible because there was a 5-colored altar below the abyss that was connected to outer space. That was a starry ancient path. The heavens have changed. Why did such an unmatched figure appear? After he came to this world, who could verify the Tao? The Black Emperor muttered. Yi Fan and the others quickly moved. For the sake of not being blocked by the sacred mountain, they had to continuously change their positions. This was especially the case when that person rushed into the abyss, making it even harder for them to see him. Not good. Huang's aura is becoming stronger and stronger. It has already seeped out of the forbidden land. They quickly retreated. They personally sensed a terrifying aura. Many animals in the mountain ridge cried out in fear. Some wolves died of old age on the spot, and a few vicious beasts with cultivation were terrified at the first moment. They flew into the air and fled. That person has been affected, not as good as before. He is about to be suppressed. The monkey said. Above the ancient desolate abyss, that vigorous figure suffered a heavy blow. The attackers were all exceptional experts, and their clothes were extremely ancient. Apart from the heavenly jade holy maiden, it was difficult for the others to say what era they were from. The heavenly jade holy maiden was like an immortal descending into the world of mortals. Her white clothes fluttered about, and with every movement she made, natural laws were like a sea. She was the #1 beauty 6,000 years ago, and it was unknown just how many heroes fell for her. Unfortunately, she was muddle-headed now, becoming like this. The people who admired her had long turned into the yellow earth. A wave of fluctuation spreading to the outside world. The 8 desolate slaves took action, suppressing that person into the abyss. It was covered in dense Tao light, and the 8 of them were not suppressed within the forbidden land. They possessed the greatest power. Everyone's heart sank. However, right at this time, a loud hong sounded. A powerful wave of fluctuation spread to the outside world, sending them flying. Archaic Emperor. The monkey was the first to cry out in alarm. At this moment, they felt an indescribable type of unmatched divine law fluctuation. It was as if heaven and earth were being opened, and primal chaos surged. Everyone was practically trembling. They quickly rushed into the distance to avoid these ripples. They didn't dare to stop for even a single step. This was like the end of the world. Beside Jianghu, the little golden phoenix chirped. It was timid and scared as it hid in her bosom. This kind of divine bird's spiritual perception was the sharpest. That figure rushed out from the ancient desolate abyss. His entire body radiated with 9-colored light, illuminating the sky. All the desolate slaves immediately jumped into the abyss as if they were avoiding an immortal. None of them dared to face him head-on. They didn't even dare to stop for a moment. The aura of an ancient great emperor. Yi Fan, the Black Emperor, and Jianghu all paled. They rushed far enough and looked into the depths of the forbidden land. All of them revealed looks of disbelief. Who was it? Who exactly was this person? It's definitely not a living great emperor. Someone must be using an extreme Tao emperor weapon. At this moment, they understood why that person could use the power of laws in the forbidden land. So it turned out that he had such a heaven-defying weapon accompanying him. Even if he has an emperor weapon, this person has to be a saint. Moreover, he is a peak expert. Otherwise, he will also die because this is the ancient desolate forbidden land, said the Black Emperor. The monkey's fiery eyes lit up. He stared at the abyss without blinking and said to himself, "That is an ancient emperor weapon." The robust figure rushed into the abyss. He himself also swayed. Clearly he had suffered an impact. The so-called weapon was the battle clothes on his body. They flowed with 9 dreamlike colors. The few of them were shocked. The weapons of the ancient great emperors were mainly offensive. There didn't seem to be any battle clothes. This person's was very different. It could be said that they had never heard of it before. It's someone from the divine silkworm ridge. They want to find the 9-wonder undying medicine, said the monkey. He recognized the ancient emperor battle clothes and deduced this person's origins. During the ancient desolate era, the 9-wonder divine medicine flew away, its whereabouts unknown. The stars changed and millions of years passed. Now it had taken root in the forbidden land of the ancient desolate forbidden land. The divine silkworm race naturally wanted to obtain it again. In reality, during all these years, it wasn't just their race. Even the other royal and imperial clans had made a move several times, wanting to obtain this stock of undying medicine. However, they all failed. The 9 transformations of the divine silkworm is invincible in the heavens and earth. In reality, if one wants to become an ancient emperor, they still need to undergo the final great sublimation, the ultimate transformation, said the monkey. The ancient emperor weapons of the divine silkworm ridge had astonishing defensive power. They were unparalleled in the world. The reason why they were forged into battle clothes was related to the growth of their race. They were always continuously transforming, as if they were shedding pieces of divine clothes. Princess Divine Silkworm. Yi Fan thought of the scene at the Jade Pool meeting. After this arrogant and unparalleled princess revived, she was incomparably powerful. She killed an ancient king with a single hand and had once said that she wanted to come to the forbidden land of the ancient desolate forbidden land to retrieve her race's undying medicine. Brother Monkey, this is your future aunt, Li Heishui said. The reason why the Princess Divine Silkworm could revive was because the few of them had won the bet. After that, the monkey searched everywhere for the divine medicine. Otherwise she would still be sleeping underground. I know. Not only does she want to dig away the 9 wonders divine medicine, but she might even want to force my uncle out. The monkey was very agitated. Over the years he had gone to the western desert several times to seek an audience with the victorious fighting Buddha, but unfortunately he had failed. The ancient Buddha on Mount Meru had been in seclusion all year round, comprehending the profoundness of life and death. He had already passed down a decree, telling those old monks that he would not see anyone. The people of the divine Silkworm Ridge must have already sent the news to the great Thunderclap Monastery on Mount Meru. The victorious fighting Buddha is coming? Pang Bo immediately became agitated. He went forward and said, "Brother Monkey, you don't know this, but when I was in my hometown, I admired your race the most." The monkey was baffled and ignored him. He blinked his fiery eyes of gold and stared at the 9 sacred mountains, feeling a little nervous. After all, that was an ancient forbidden land. No matter how powerful the Princess Divine Silkworm was, even with the protection of the ancient emperor's battle clothes, there would be a time when her strength would be exhausted. Clatter. The ear-piercing sound of divine chains rang out, and everyone felt their hair stand on end. Even though they were extremely far away, they could hear it clearly. It was as if an unparalleled demon emperor that had been locked down through the ages had appeared. That kind of agitation made their primordial spirits shatter, and they could only retreat. Boom. A torrential black fog surged up, drowning the entire ancient desolate abyss. The 9 sacred mountains were covered, and a terrifying aura rushed out of the forbidden zone of life, spreading out in all directions. The Princess Divine Silkworm was the first to be hit, and she was sent flying. That was the power of desolation, and it could make a saint die of old age instantly. Even if the great sage Hunchuo came, it would be difficult for him to block it for a long time. If not for the ancient emperor's battle clothes, she would have definitely turned into a pile of soil the moment the fog soared into the sky. This is bad. The most terrifying thing has happened. After all, the Princess Divine Silkworm is not an ancient emperor. It's useless even with the protection of the emperor's battle clothes. If the thing inside rushes out, she'll definitely suffer a grievance. The Black Emperor said. Clatter. The ice-cold iron chains rattled, as if the gods of hell had broken free from their shackles and were killing their way into the mortal world. A blurry black figure slowly walked out from the abyss. It was impossible to tell if it was a man or a woman, and it was even impossible to tell if it was a human or a beast. It danced around the thick iron chains that were thousands of feet long, and its ferocity was terrifying. Desolation. It's a creature from the abyss. It's not those desolate slaves from before. The Princess Divine Silkworm, who had fallen far away, coughed up large mouthfuls of blood. In front of that terrifying supreme existence, it was actually difficult for her to fight, and she kept coughing up blood from the aura. This is too terrifying. If not for the protection of the Divine Silkworm race's supreme ancient emperor's battle clothes, even the Princess Divine Silkworm would have been destroyed long ago. This was the first time they had seen someone so powerful, daring to fight against the ancient emperor's weapon. It was truly shocking. I'm afraid that the Princess Divine Silkworm won't be able to fight at all. Even if the Divine Silkworm Ridge's battle clothes are unparalleled, it's not the ancient emperor's body after all. The large black dog said. Oh no, the princess is in danger, the monkey cried out. This was because in the monstrous black fog, the blurry figure was walking out of the abyss step by step, pressing forward. How could the Princess Divine Silkworm resist it? Boom. Suddenly there was a violent tremor. In another direction of the life-forbidden zone, an extreme might erupted. It was domineering, as if it had connected the past, present, and future. A large staff exuded a monstrous holy light, crushing the ages. It struck toward a few holy mountains, its brilliance dazzling the heavens. The aura of the Emperor of Fighting swept through the sun, moon, and stars. It's my father's weapon, the monkey cried out in shock, incredibly excited. Chapter 876. A large metal rod pressed down until the life-forbidden region was about to collapse. Even with the protection of the immortal ancient divine formation, it was useless. The earth cracked, the mountains collapsed, and the formation patterns were obliterated. This scene was just too terrifying. The metal rod stretched out for several hundred li, striking out from the mountain ridge and directly striking the 9 sacred mountains at the center of the life-forbidden region. Its divine might was matchless. Since ancient times, who dared to do something like this? This was a forbidden region. The victorious fighting Buddha still came in the end, taking action at this crucial moment. A loud roar shattered mountains and rivers, shaking Yi Fan, the monkey, and the others until their qi and blood surged, and their ears rang with wung-wung sounds. Li Heishui's cultivation was the weakest. Even his ears were overflowing with blood. He was protected by the others and quickly retreated into the distance. This place was just too terrifying. They were in another direction, several hundred li away from where the victorious fighting Buddha attacked, but they still suffered such an impact. In that direction, golden light dyed the heaven and earth, filled with an extreme emperor's might. It was as if the river of time had been severed, and the shackles of space had been broken. The space here became incomparably chaotic. What order of heaven and earth? What great Tao laws? They seemed to have been immediately severed. Only a large rod became the only thing. On the 9 sacred mountains, that indistinct figure devoured the essence energy of the mountains and rivers, looking down on the world. His true body couldn't be seen. Only a pair of eyes turned into green light, flickering in the darkness. It made one's heart go cold, and even their souls couldn't help but sink. What kind of powerful existence was this? No one could say for sure. They felt as if they would be destroyed just by looking at him. Their divine senses were unstable, and their Tao foundations were on the verge of collapse, heading towards decay. Pooh! He opened his mouth and spat out a streak of essence energy. It turned into a dazzling streak of light within the black clouds, hacking towards the Emperor of Fighting's jet-black metal rod, releasing a sky-shaking sound. Boundless mists filled the surroundings, and all types of divine chains of order broke apart. The strike destroyed everything. The collision between the two produced deafening ripples. One could see terrifying ripples spreading out from the 9 sacred mountains, covering the entire life-restricted region. It continuously collapsed. This was a terrifying great collapse. What a terrifying victorious fighting Buddha, daring to take action against an existence within the ancient forbidden region. The Black Emperor let out a long sigh. Immediately afterwards they began to quickly flee again, shattering the void as they fled. It was because the terrifying fluctuations swept far into outer space. At the same time, the Emperor of Fighting's weapon was jolted high into the air and smashed into the wilderness outside. Who knew how many mountains were turned into dust? There was no suspense at all. It was complete destruction. Moreover, what was even more terrifying was that it carried a wave of desolate aura. Many creatures in the mountain range immediately aged, their flesh drying up, turning into withered bones. Their lives approached the end. Chi. In the center of the forbidden zone of life, above the abyss, the figure looked down on the world. 2 terrifying beams of light shot out. Those were his eyes. They cut through the laws and the light of the path that filled the sky. He looked at Princess Divine Silkworm, sending her flying and coughing up blood. This was an extremely shocking scene. If not for the fact that the Divine Silkworm Princess was wearing her race's 9-colored battle armor, which flashed with a dreamy divine splendor at that moment, she would have definitely been pulverized. That's the archaic Emperor's battle armor. I really didn't expect such an existence to exist in this world, able to unleash such battle prowess and face the supreme Emperor weapon of the Divine Silkworm Ridge head-on. The monkey was horrified. At the same time, in the distant mountain range, the victorious fighting Buddha made his move again. He brandished the large metal rod and began to hack at the 9 sacred mountains, as if he really wanted to destroy this place. The jet-black metal rod was a piece of immortal metal that was personally refined by the Emperor of Fighting. Multicolored light shone brilliantly and auspicious chi surged. It was as if a sacred emperor had revived. It's my father's aura. At this moment, the monkey's eyes were brimming with tears. He immediately thought of his father and wanted nothing more than to return to the archaic era. The revival of the supreme emperor weapon. It was activated by the fearless victorious fighting Buddha. It was almost equivalent to the reincarnation of the Emperor of Fighting. He was probably the only one who could do this in this world. It was because this was his older brother's weapon. They had the same cultivation technique, and they were even descendants of the same bloodline. It could be said that they were of the same bloodline, allowing it to revive in the shortest amount of time. The jet-black immortal treasure metal rod radiated brilliantly in all directions. Boundless multicolored light gushed out from the rod's body, and there were even streaks of primal chaos descending from it. The will to fight could be felt throughout the ages. This was the unique aura of the sacred battling ape bloodline. A single word, battle, could shock the 9 heavens and crush the various worlds. This was the unique characteristic of the race that was the most proficient in battle. No one could compare to them. The Emperor of Fighting's supreme laws drowned out the ancient abyss, turning into boundless Tao power that wiped out all life. This was a world-shaking battle. It was displayed through the victorious fighting Buddha's hand and activated by the immortal treasure metal rod. It was as if the old sacred emperor of the past had reappeared. The towering black fog was about to be scattered. A figure flickered and finally appeared indistinctly. It was the silhouette of a person, but it was still impossible to tell whether it was a man or a woman. The revival of the Emperor of Fighting's weapon made it so that he or she didn't dare to underestimate it. He stretched out a hand and drew out the order of heaven and earth, turning into a dense expanse of great Tao runes that faced the metal rod that had illuminated the ages. Yi Fan, the monkey, the Black Emperor, and the others all held their breaths. This kind of great battle was rarely seen since ancient times. It was truly a great fortune to be able to witness it. The ancient forbidden land had deterred the ages. Who could see through the true appearance of Mount Lu? Now, a living existence had walked out from within and was personally taking action. It was truly shocking. In reality, they really wanted to know what exactly was beneath the eternal abyss. Was it like the undying mountain with two or more terrifying existences? Rumble, the heaven and earth were resonating and the great Tao was resonating. True dragons, vermilion birds, and all kinds of other immortal spirits appeared and danced in the great Tao divine laws. This battle evolved into a complicated and terrifying one. All kinds of strange scenes appeared and lingered under the heavens. Dong. That was the awakening of the deity within the Emperor of Fighting's weapon. A human figure rushed out to confront that existence. An extreme immortal light shot out, forcing everyone to close their eyes. Heavens, the ancient forbidden land is densely covered with formation patterns that are at least at the level of great ancient emperors. The Black Emperor cried out in alarm. At this moment he finally saw some clues. All kinds of great Tao runes flickered and spread out from the 9 sacred mountains, dispelling the remnant waves of Tao laws released by the old sacred emperor's weapon. Otherwise, without the appearance of a Tao pattern of this level, not to mention this place, even the southern region would have most likely sunk. Because this was an attack unleashed by an awakened extreme Tao imperial weapon. The heavens and earth could split apart. It was simply unimaginable how powerful it was. We managed to escape this calamity. Otherwise, with how close we were, without the flickering of those Tao patterns, we would definitely have been turned into dust immediately. The monkey spoke. No one understood better than him how terrifying the old sacred emperor's weapon was. Your uncle really has a violent temper. He even dared to fight like this. Is he really not afraid of destroying the southern region? This is like the end of the world. Li Tian was speechless. He felt a kind of reverence for the monkey's uncle even though he had never seen him before. The Ji family's little Moon's face was a bit pale. After coming back to her senses, she stuck out her tongue and stroked the fluffy golden phoenix. She was very nervous. The victorious fighting Buddha started a war in the ancient forbidden land like this, causing their family to feel threatened. If the southern region was destroyed, would the Ji family still be able to exist? In reality, at this moment, all the great ancient sects in the southern region felt a kind of shocking might. All of them were trembling with fear. Boom. In the Ji family, an ancient scripture rose up and released rays of auspicious light, protecting the entire ancient land of the family within. It was as if it had merged into the void and didn't belong to this world. At this moment, the expressions of all the elders in this ancient family were solemn. The extreme Tao imperial weapon gave a warning and the ancient mirror automatically protected the family. What did this mean? There was a great calamity in the southern region, and the power of the great ancient emperors was attacking. At the same time, within the wavering light sacred land, dragon roars shook the 9 heavens. A huge black cauldron rose up and draconic patterns fell down. They flickered with dazzling light as if a black true dragon had been revived. The entire ancient land was protected by it, and a terrifying aura flowed out. This was the black gold dragon pattern cauldron, the greatest miracle in this world. The entire wavering light sacred land was forged with the power of the entire sect. All the saints and disciples were of one mind, sincerely worshipping and refining it. After spending 50,000 years, it finally fused with the Tao on a stormy night. Even though there were rumors that an unparalleled existence descended on that terrifying rainy night filled with flashing lightning and rolling thunder, there was no evidence in the end, so no one believed it. In the southern region, within this life-forbidden zone, the deity nurtured within the immortal treasure iron rod was revived. Under the victorious fighting Buddha's urging, it was boundlessly domineering, sweeping through everything. Above the abyss, the blurry figure didn't make any big movements. His hands simply moved, bursting forth one rune after another. They collided with the black iron rod, creating sonorous sounds. That wasn't the sound of weapons colliding, but the rumbling of the great Tao. There was no more terrifying power than this. At this moment, no one dared to approach. Even if a saint came, they would have to suffer a grievance. Above the 9 sacred mountains, the black mist that overflowed into the heavens surged violently. That figure's eyes shifted, as if 10,000 years of time flowed past in the blink of an eye. The immortal treasure iron rod was trembling from the pressure, almost falling into the abyss. The victorious fighting Buddha is so powerful, able to fight against the existence below the abyss. Li Heishui sucked in a breath of cold air. You're wrong. In the current world, there is no one who can contend against Huang. The victorious fighting Buddha borrowed the power of the deity within the ancient emperor weapon, said the Black Emperor. Meanwhile, the monkey revealed a deep look of worry, worried for his uncle. An extreme Dao imperial weapon almost had the power of an archaic emperor, but the consumption was tremendous. How long could the victorious fighting Buddha last? Roar. At this moment a great roar sounded. The mountains and rivers trembled, the sun and moon lost their radiance, and a crazy wave engulfed the entire great earth. This was a type of Dao roar. In the southern region, there wasn't a single powerful cultivator who wasn't horrified. No matter how far away they were, they all heard it. This was the perception of heaven transmitted down through the great Tao of heaven and earth. In the mountain ridge, an old monkey displayed a type of dermic heaven and earth ancient technique. His body reached the 9 heavens and stepped on the 9 underworlds, his entire body erupting with boundless divine light. He towered into the clouds, revealing his true body. He wasn't chanting the name of Buddha, but just like during the archaic era, his sharpness didn't diminish at all. He looked down on the world, his heroic appearance intimidating. The monkey's eyes immediately turned red and tears rolled down. This was his uncle, just like his father, not fearing the heavens or the earth, crushing everything in his way. This was their clan. This kind of aura was unique and incomparable. In the forbidden ancient land, the divine silkworm princess had already fallen below the sacred mountain, coughing out large mouthfuls of blood. Protected by the 9-colored imperial clothes, she raised her head with great difficulty. Her face was pale, but her beautiful eyes flowed with extraordinary splendor. She muttered, "You are still you in the end. No matter what happens, the battle blood in your bones will never change." Chapter 877. The divine silkworm princess coughed out blood. Her face was pale and her expression was sad and beautiful. She used all of her strength to help the victorious fighting Buddha. 9 patterns appeared on the 9-colored battle clothes on her body. True dragon, immortal phoenix, divine unicorn. These were the various forms that the ancient emperors of the divine silkworm ridge had transformed into. Every single form was a great Tao symbol. They turned into a type of supreme power that suppressed the void, and then they blasted towards the 9 sacred mountains. The immortal might was unparalleled. At this moment, the southern region was shaken once again. Everyone was shocked. G family, Alcade, Great Mystery, Carefree, and many other ancient sex giants were horrified. What kind of people were fighting? The power of an ancient great emperor had revived and was carrying out an expedition. It would destroy this great land. Outside the ancient desolate forbidden land, the Black Emperor had already finished carving the formation patterns. He was prepared to run at any time and leave the eastern wasteland. He was afraid that the 2 ancient imperial weapons would pierce through the life-forbidden region and bury them all here. The 9 sacred mountains have great emperor-level formation patterns carved on them. They shouldn't be destroyed, said the monkey. Even though there were 2 ancient imperial weapons assisting him, he was still incomparably worried for his uncle. The 9-colored battle clothes not only had unparalleled defensive power, but they could also carry out terrifying attacks. Back then, the divine Silkworm Ridge's archaic emperor had clearly considered all kinds of problems, fearing that his descendants lacked combat strength. At this moment, 9 types of immortal spirits appeared. True dragon, immortal phoenix, divine unicorn. They turned into 9 ancient symbols, each representing a type of heaven and earth great Tao. They suppressed the 9 sacred mountains until they were about to collapse. In the black mist, the blurry figure's eyes flashed with green light. Chong chong. 9 types of light flew out in succession, each of them different, colliding with the 9 immortal spirits. Oh. The ancient desolate abyss was trembling. Overflowing black mist surged, drowning out this place. Even the heavenly eye couldn't see through it. It was densely covered in traces of the great Tao, and nothing could be seen through. Roar. In the mountain ridge, the old monkey that reached the 9 heavens and stepped on the 9 underworlds released a great Tao roar that shattered everything. A wave of innate essence energy turned into a Tao diagram that flew into the sacred mountain. Then, the deity within the immortal treasure black iron rod appeared. It opened its mouth and spat out blazing light into the Tao diagram. It turned into a world-grinding wheel, dazzling and resplendent. It became the carrier of the Tao, crushing that figure. This was a terrifying attack. It was the greatest enhancement of a fully awakened god born from the ancient imperial weapon. This kind of attack was almost equivalent to an ancient emperor's attack. It could be said that this attack was world-shaking. If it struck the southern region, it would definitely be destroyed and cease to exist. However, in the face of this world-shaking attack, the figure on the sacred mountain slashed forward with his finger like a blade. The roulette was immediately cut in half, turning into a field of battle holy light that shattered the vacuum. Pooh! Then, with a flip of his hand, all of the light gathered together, piercing through a black hole and rushing into an unknown dimensional space, extinguishing all of it. This method shocked the Black Emperor and the others to the point that they were tongue-tied. Pop, pop. At the same time, a series of light sounds came from the sky. That person's eyes shot out divine light, shattering the true dragon, immortal phoenix, and divine unicorn. This kind of heaven-defying method left everyone speechless, and they could only be shocked. A casual strike could break through everything and nothing could stop it. Royal weapon resonance. The victorious fighting Buddha in the mountain ridge shouted loudly, accompanied by the aura of the heavenly Tao, resounding through most of the southern region. Every single golden hair on his body was sparkling and sparkling. Although his body was thin, he was incomparably divine, making people want to prostrate themselves in worship. The black divine metal in his hand shone brightly, and immortal chi rushed into the sky. It was humming, emitting incomparable might, stirring up the great Tao laws of the entire southern region. At this moment, his aura rapidly rose, just like in the primordial era. There was a kind of majesty that fought against the heavens and earth, pressing forward with indomitable will. His true body entered the forbidden area of the primordial era, about to carry out a great battle. "Oh!" the monkey cried out. He knew that no one in the desolate era could fight. Even if his uncle had the ancient imperial weapon in hand, he would most likely die, unless his father, the Emperor of Fighting, revived. At the same time, the divine silkworm princess did the same. Her aura rose sharply, and the 9-colored battle clothes on her body emitted endless light. 9 types of symbols densely covered her body, turning into supreme divine power of the great Tao. Her entire body was resplendent and dazzling, displaying the extreme divine might of the ancient imperial weapon to the fullest. This battle clothes had almost completely revived, and she was going to fight the supreme existence under the primordial era's abyss. Oh! A terrifying aura erupted. The 2 ancient imperial weapons were resonating, interacting with each other. There was a type of wondrous reaction between them, and when they were connected, their might became even greater. Yi Fan, Li Tian, the Black Emperor, and the others were all worried. Was this going to be a great battle? How many generations of heroes had appeared in the past, yet none of them had been able to flatten the life-forbidden area. Could the victorious fighting Buddha do it? He wouldn't fall here, right? Dong. The 2 ancient imperial weapons resonated, releasing the most powerful attack. Ancient symbols burst forth one after another, covering the 9 sacred mountains densely as if they were going to seal the mountains. The monkey was shocked as if he had seen his father's methods. Those were ancient imperial texts that could suppress and kill all experts. They were spat out by the 2 deities in the ancient imperial weapons after they revived. Above the abyss, that blurry figure was stopped. He had no choice but to resist these ancient symbols, because the 2 extreme imperial weapons resonated, reversing heaven and earth. They were too terrifying, possessing world-destroying power. Oh! The victorious fighting Buddha took action again. The imperial symbols that filled the sky hadn't disappeared yet. He soared into the life-forbidden area, brandishing the black iron rod and smashing it down, heavily attacking this person. This was his most powerful attack. His entire person pounced down from the 9 heavens, and an unrivaled might swept through everything. He didn't seem like an ancient Buddha that had walked down from Mount Meru at all, possessing an unrivaled aura that could dominate the world. The monkey clenched his fists tightly and trembled in excitement. His uncle was too similar to his father. Regardless of whether it was this kind of domineering aura or that kind of appearance, they were almost exactly the same. Everyone held their breaths, quietly waiting for this rod to fall. They wanted to know what kind of result it would produce. Would the ancient desolate forbidden area be split open, or would the victorious fighting Buddha fall? However, contrary to everyone's expectations, there was a change in the end when the immortal treasure metal rod fiercely fell. It suddenly turned around lightly and turned into a beam of black light, sinking into the foot of the mountain. The battle's sacred ape race not only possessed innate divine valor, but they also had unfathomable secret techniques. The metal rod turned into a bridge that connected to the heavens. It flickered with black light and directly extended from the outside of the forbidden area to the foot of the mountain. On the 9 sacred mountains, that blurry figure coldly looked down. Through the densely packed mountain ceiling symbols, he stretched out a hand and grabbed downwards. Swoosh! The victorious fighting Buddha turned into a beam of golden light and arrived personally along the black immortal treasure metal rod bridge. With a long roar, his body turned into thousands of golden figures and ancient Buddhas everywhere. Countless old sacred apes appeared and pounced towards the mountain peak. At the same time, his true body rescued Princess Divine Silkworm and quickly rushed out of the forbidden area along the black divine metal rod. The two ancient imperial weapons resonated and interweaved heavenly path's sacred power. Boom. Above the abyss, that hand crushed all the sacred ape incarnations and turned into a beam of terrifying light. It stretched out over 100 miles and grabbed towards the battle's sacred ape and Princess Divine Silkworm. Clang, clang. 9 pieces of battle armor flew out from Princess Divine Silkworm's body and turned into a dazzling light. All of them covered the old sacred ape's body and protected his battle body. 9-colored divine splendor soared into the sky. The old monkey forcefully threw her into the distance and into a realm gate, disappearing in the blink of an eye. After that, he wore the primordial imperial robe and held the immortal treasure metal rod in his hand. He roared at the sky and turned back to fight. He wanted to fight to the death with the supreme existence that was chasing after him from behind. He wanted to forcefully fight against that huge hand that covered the sky and earth. Ah! At the same time, a Buddhist roar shook the world. A demon-subduing pestle rushed out from the top of the victorious fighting Buddha's head, emitting boundless Buddhist light and unparalleled magic power. This was the supreme treasure of the great Thunderclap Monastery on Mount Meru, and it resisted together with him. What should we do? The victorious fighting Buddha might die. Can he resist the existence in the life-forbidden area? Li Tian and the others were all shocked. The monkey's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He let out a loud roar and slapped the top of his head. A golden ancient scroll rushed out from his head and entered the forbidden area of the primordial era. This was actually a decree that was personally written by the Emperor of Fighting back then. His great Tao flowed in front of him, and it was used to pay for the monkey's life. At this moment, it emitted the unparalleled aura of the old sacred emperor. It was boundlessly domineering and filled the sky and earth. It turned into an immortal light and entered the forbidden area of the primordial era, blocking between the victorious fighting Buddha and that huge hand. Ancient characters were produced one after another, flowing with the power of the sacred emperor. Count this one in as well. The large black dog opened his mouth and spat out the decree of great Emperor Wuxia that had appeared at the Jade Pool meeting. It also turned into an eternal ray of celestial light and flew into the Holy Land, blocking in front of the huge hand. The aura of an ancient emperor pervaded the air. To everyone's surprise, the huge hand really stopped. The eyes of the existence above the abyss flickered, and he stared at the 2 decrees. Then he used the huge hand to carve a few ancient characters in the air, and the huge hand disappeared just like that. The slaughter stopped just like that? Everyone felt as if they had experienced a great dream. What do those ancient characters mean? They didn't recognize them, but they looked very ancient, so they didn't understand what they meant. They should be imperial characters. Those who have proven their Tao won't be able to recognize them, the Black Emperor said. This was actually an outcome that exceeded everyone's expectations. The slaughter that filled the sky completely disappeared, and the forbidden area of the primordial era regained its peace. The surging black fog dissipated, and the figure on the 9 holy mountains disappeared with a flash. He entered the abyss and his figure was indistinct. It was as if he had never appeared in the first place. The empty mountains were silent, and it was extremely quiet. The 5-colored altar has appeared. Everyone was shocked. Above the 9 holy mountains an ancient altar appeared, and it floated there, sealing the abyss. It was simple and unadorned, and it was missing parts. It was broken over the years, and it quietly floated in the air, not moving at all. Why did it appear? What kind of consequences did this battle bring about? Yi Fan and the others were shaken. They looked at each other in dismay, not understanding what was going on. The victorious fighting Buddha's majestic appearance wasn't any less than before. He wore a 9-colored battle armor, and he held a black gold immortal treasure iron rod in his hand. He walked out step by step and his aura was restrained. It wasn't intimidating, but it still made people want to kneel down and worship him. "Uncle!" The monkey cried on the spot. He was extremely emotional and he leaped in the mountain ridges, quickly rushing over and arrived before him. "Motherf asterisk her, why should I save him? I hate this monkey the most." At this moment, the Black Emperor seemed to have come to his senses. He couldn't help but bare his teeth and he cursed in a low voice. Yi Fan, Jizue Yenishi, and the others also rose into the air, rushing towards that region, quickly approaching. Among them, Pang Bo was the most excited. He said, "I pay my respects to the great sage equal to heaven. In the past, did you go to a place called the Great Tang of the Middle Earth? Then, you left the Hanga Pass in the west, traversed the starry sky and met Tathagata and finally arrived at Mount Meru?" Chapter 878. Chong, Chong, the 9-colored battle clothes were lightly ringing, releasing zheng sounds, releasing brilliant radiance and oppressive might. This was the divine silkworm ridge's weapon of the extreme Tao. It flickered with dreamlike radiance, separating from the victorious fighting Buddha's body, revealing his true body. This was a shriveled old ape, every single strand of golden hair on his body sparkling and translucent, making him look otherworldly, his appearance dignified and dignified. What was the meaning of achieving the Tao? This old ape gave the best explanation. He stood before them, untainted by the aura of the mortal world, as if he had transcended beyond the world. He was like a boulder that had existed since time immemorial, not moving at all. He was extremely puzzled by Pang Bo's words, expressing that he had never been to the central Great Tang. His palms were pressed together, a ring of Buddhist radiance appearing behind his head, making him look like an old monk, his body like a withered tree. At this moment, Pang Bo seemed to have been possessed by two fae, turning into a loudspeaker, speaking continuously, finishing all types of legends in one go. The victorious fighting Buddha shook his head, not knowing anything he was talking about. He had never left this ancient star, never suppressed for 500 years. On the side, the monkey's expression was unkind, saying, "How heroic is my uncle? Who could suppress him?" Pang Bo was embarrassed. What he heard was just a legend in the end, moreover something from the other side of the starry sky. How could it be true? Even he himself felt that it was a bit absurd. "It isn't all just rumors, I've seen the Sakyamuni," the victorious fighting Buddha said. "What?" Yi Fan and Pang Bo both cried out in alarm, having too many questions in their hearts, wishing to get to the bottom of this. The old saint fighting ape held a jet-black immortal treasure iron rod in his hand. The domineering aura from the great battle just now had long been restrained, only having a benevolent appearance like an old monk. "In the past I've seen the Sakyamuni, but I didn't fight. 2,000 years ago, the monkey's uncle awakened from a piece of divine source, reappearing in this world. He was currently in the western desert, just in time for a flourishing era. At that time, the Sakyamuni entered Mount Meru, overseeing the great Thunderclap Temple. This was an ancient person from outside this region, coming from an unknown star domain. His magical force was profound, subduing many monks, and as a result, he was elected as the Lord of the Spiritual Mountain. However, not long after, because of the doctrine, the monks and bodhisattvas on Mount Meru broke off relations with Gautama Buddha and did not recognize him as the master of the Great Lain Temple. Buddhism emphasized cause and effect, focusing on the future and believed in the afterlife. At first, when the sages saw Sakyamuni's power and Buddha nature, they all thought he was the reincarnation of the ancient Amitabha Buddha. When the doctrines conflicted, they immediately rejected it. That was why disputes arose. A great chaos took place on Mount Meru, almost splitting into two sections. Someone lit a Buddhist lamp and erased the mirror of the past, using it to illuminate the true body of Gautama Buddha. They wanted to know if he was the reincarnation of a true Buddha in the past. In the end, when the Buddhist lamp shone on his body, Shakyamuni was rejected and no longer recognized as the Lord Buddha. He was expelled from the great Thunderclap Monastery and was considered a demon. Yi Fan and Pang Bo looked at each other in dismay. There was actually such a thing. In the past, the little white-clothed nun had told him a bit, but she didn't touch upon the secrets within. All of the truth had been sealed. Shakyamuni had boundless magical power. Back then he relied on his own strength to overturn Mount Meru and reform Buddhism. He entered and left the great Thunderclap Monastery alone, and no one could stop him. The Dojan ape said. 2,000 years ago he hadn't ascended Mount Meru yet. All of this was what he saw and heard in the western desert. The doctrines were different. The one who was illuminated by the Buddhist mirror wasn't the reincarnation of the Amitabha Buddha. The guardian Vajra of Mount Meru came out together to destroy Shakyamuni. That was because there were rumors that he was the demonic shell of a Buddha. However, Mount Meru was defeated in the final battle. Even with the subduing demon pestle left behind by the Amitabha Buddha, they couldn't capture him and stop him from descending the mountain. One had to know that that was the weapon of an ancient emperor. If one isn't a saint and wants to activate the subduing demon pestle of the Amitabha Buddha and leave behind someone who is at least the great sage or the quasi-emperor, the difficulty is too great. The Black Emperor muttered to himself not far away. In this battle, Shakyamuni could be said to have displayed an extraordinary realm. He charged into Mount Meru alone and could even completely topple Buddhism. Thus it became a taboo. Even the Arhat couldn't bring it up again. I met him in an ancient temple and sat down to discuss the Tao. We talked for an entire night. He explained his Tao and doctrines to me, which made me rather interested. The great battle Saint Ape was attracted. Back then he had encountered a bottleneck in his cultivation and needed to walk his own Tao. Buddhism advocated the afterlife and focused on cultivating the future. This moved him greatly. After that night, Shakyamuni went on his way and left the western desert. In the end, even the great battle Saint Ape didn't know where he went. He has the power of the quasi-emperor. The monkey's uncle's words shocked everyone present. How great was his magic power and divine ability. From then on, Buddhism no longer had a Tathagata, but Mount Meru had a victorious fighting Buddha. He entered the great Thunderclap Monastery and studied all kinds of scriptures to comprehend the mysteries of life and death. It's a bit messy. Pangbo rubbed his temples. He still hadn't walked out of his reverie. Reality and legends were two different things. Is Shakyamuni really the demonic shell of Buddha? Why is there such a saying? Buddha talks about the afterlife. Did the mirror of the past really reflect anything? The few of them didn't understand many things. Back then, the person who lit the green lamp and polished the ancient mirror had all mysteriously passed away without leaving any useful records. Their deaths were very strange. Even the monkey's uncle couldn't find anything. How did Buddhism come about? Pangbo was puzzled. Wasn't it born in ancient India? Why was Shakyamuni a traitor on this side of the starry sky? Yifan explained. He had read some ancient books and more or less knew about it. On the other side of the starry sky, some ancient books recorded that when Shakyamuni traveled, he saw Buddhists sacrificing themselves to cultivate. He felt that it wasn't the right way. From then on, there was the Tathagata Dharma and he established a sect. There was a legend that Buddhism had existed for a long time before that. However, the Dharma was exhausted and Shakyamuni carried it forward again. There are too many secrets. I really want to go back and investigate them in detail. Pangbo muttered to himself. Laozi and Buddha were both people from 2,500 years ago. They were almost born in the same era and were ancient people with great wisdom. They had both entered the star field. There were too many mysteries on Earth. Preaching Qi practitioners. Yifan and Pangbo didn't understand many things about ancient China. They wanted to go back to the other side of the starry sky immediately to investigate. This benefactor is right about one thing. After I ascended Mount Meru and converted to Buddhism, my Dharma name was Wukong, said the fighting Saint Ape. Pangbo was dumbfounded and tongue-tied. After a long while he said, Wukong? Some legends are actually true. How did they get to ancient China? Uncle. Next, the monkey stepped forward. Everyone tactfully stepped back and let them talk about their relationship. When you reach the Saint Realm, come to Mount Meru and find me. I'll pass your father's immortal treasure, the black iron, to you, said the victorious fighting Buddha. He had been in seclusion all year round just to prove his Tao and comprehend life and death. He usually didn't see anyone. And she. The monkey carefully picked up Princess Divine Silkworm. The victorious fighting Buddha didn't reply. For so many years he had been sitting in the ancient temple. Princess Divine Silkworm had ascended Mount Meru 9 times, but he had avoided her. At this moment, there was a deep look in his eyes as if he had comprehended his past life and future life. This time, Princess Divine Silkworm threatened him with her death. She entered the ancient desolate forbidden land alone to pluck the 9 wonders immortal herb and send him a message. Finally he was forced to come out. After a long time the uncle and nephew finally finished talking. The victorious fighting Buddha's golden fur was sparkling, and he was about to leave. Before leaving, he walked toward the large black dog and said, I've offended you in the past. Woof, if Emperor Wuxia was still alive he would be able to suppress you with one hand. It's a pity that I was defeated again. I deserve to be unlucky. I don't have a chance to deal with you. The large black dog bared his teeth. Please forgive me for my disrespect in the past. A disk of light appeared behind the battling Buddha's head. Then he stretched out his hand and pointed. A dazzling light shot toward the Black Emperor. What do you want? The black fur all over the large black dog's body stood up. The void trembled and glossy black fur grew out of his bald tail. Just like the rest of his body, it was as shiny as black silk. Hee. Yifan, Li Tian, Pangbo, Li Heishui, and the others suppressed their laughter with great difficulty. However, they still laughed out loud in the end. They finally understood why the large black dog was so resentful toward the monkey. At the same time, they also understood why the black fur on his body was dense and glossy, and only his tail was bald. As it turned out, all of this had been caused by the battling Saint Ape. No wonder he couldn't be cured. Woof woof woof. The large black dog flew into a rage and he chased after them, biting furiously. Senior, please guide us on the way home. Yi Fan stepped forward and blocked the victorious fighting Buddha's path. He asked him to guide them. I don't know about the ancient starry sky path that leads to the outer realm. The victorious fighting Buddha shook his head and looked toward the depths of the ancient desolate forbidden land. There was a 5-colored sacrificial altar there, and it blocked the abyss. He warned them not to go there and try. In the end, Pang Bo asked Kate about this. That clumsy foreigner had been sent to the western desert by an old monk, and he didn't know how he was doing now. He was just trying his luck, and he didn't think that the victorious fighting Buddha would really know that Cade was the monk who waited on him in seclusion. The Buddhist monks believed that Cade was born with extraordinary talent. He had golden hair and blue eyes, and he was slightly similar to the battling Saint Ape. Thus, they allowed him to listen to the teachings of the Buddha in an important place, and he was raised as a guardian Vajra. *CK your God. You've abandoned me. I despise you. Praise the Buddha. When I achieve enlightenment, I'll go back myself and invite Satan for afternoon tea. Go to hell, God. This was Cade's special prayer, and he would curse when he woke up every morning. Gradually, some of the monks learned of this and remembered it. In the end, no one could stop the victorious fighting Buddha. He took a step out of this mountain range and he disappeared into the distance. Monkey, stop right there. Are you not going to see me for the rest of your life? The divine silkworm princess appeared and chased after him. We threw the divine silkworm ridge's ancient sovereign battle armor to that damn monkey. How can he not see us? He's just avoiding us. The Black Emperor curled his lips. Cough. The monkey glared at him, warning him not to always be hostile to his uncle. Yellow leaves drifted down. This was a stone cliff at the edge of the ancient desolate lands. Yi Fan and Pang Bo revisited this old place, and they were filled with emotions. They recalled the various past events when they first came to this world. I keep feeling that there are old friends who should have passed away who are still alive. We have to get to the bottom of this and find this ghost. Yi Fan and Pang Bo walked side by side and they walked forward with large strides. They arrived in front of a crack under the stone wall, and there was a stone cave here. Back then Lu Yunji, Li Changqing and Wang Yan wanted to kill them, but they were thrown into this tiger cave instead. In theory they would definitely die. Back then there was a clear tiger's roar. However, after so many years, Yi Fan always felt that there was a pair of vicious eyes watching him in the darkness, and they understood him very well. He believed that the person who was targeting him might be among his old friends, and those who hated him and Pang Bo to the bone were Lu Yunji, Li Changqing and Wang Yan. It's time to unravel the mystery. Pang Bo sneered and strode into the stone cave. However, when he saw everything inside he was stunned. Chapter 879. After experiencing the calamity of the Immortal Ascension Valley, they had become even more cautious. The Black Emperor had already carefully inspected the area from afar and was sure that there were no terrifying formations. The Tiger Cave was still as before. It was dry and spacious and there was a baleful aura lingering around it. Pang Bo's expression became sluggish. He actually saw divine crocodiles with black scales flickering with cold light. There were more than 10 of them lying there motionlessly. You're truly a lingering spirit that won't go away. You guys caused the deaths of so many of my classmates back then. Pang Bo extended his large foot and kicked wildly. No, they're all dead. I don't even know how many years they've lost their lives, said Li Tian. Yi Fan and Pang Bo especially loathed the divine crocodiles. Back then, when they crossed the star domain, these creatures had left them with an indelible impression of cruelty. They had taken the lives of many of their old friends, so they hated them greatly at the sight of them. They've been dead for more than 20 years. They all died of old age. The Black Emperor walked forward and stretched out a large claw to examine them. Yi Fan squatted down and also examined them carefully. They should have died after being deprived of their lifespan when they escaped from the forbidden ancient land. Back then there were actually so many divine crocodiles that didn't die. They must have hidden among the corpses of their old friends to avoid our eyes and ears and then followed us out, said Pang Bo hatefully. The flesh of the divine crocodiles had long since decayed, but the black scales on the outside were still flickering with a dark light, making them look lifelike and sinister. Everything that happened back then had surpassed their imaginations. There were some mysterious existences that had followed them here, and only when they discovered Lin Jia's cell phone did they reveal some clues. They actually died. Yi Fan's pupils contracted. Things had exceeded his expectations. In the depths of the Tiger Cave, the 3 of them seemed to have died from extreme fear. They squeezed into the corner and leaned against each other. Their arms were bound with rotten cloth and leather belts. More than 20 years had passed, and they had long since turned into withered bones. Only a few key pendants and hair clips remained, as well as some messy hair. It was a terrifying sight. Were we wrong? Pang Bo muttered to himself. Lu Yunji, Li Zhangqing and Wang Yan were all dead. They weren't the evil people who had targeted them in the darkness. Back then, hadn't they gone too far? Shouldn't they have abandoned them here? Not far away from the godly crocodile were the skeletons of 2 tiger cubs. They were less than a foot long, and there was also a huge tiger skeleton. There was a small hole between its eyebrows, and it had been pierced through. Back then, when they were leaving, they heard a tiger's roar. They originally thought that it was the saber-toothed tiger returning to its cave and seeing Lu Yunji and the others invading its lair. They didn't expect it to be like this. They walked up and carefully examined the 3 skeletons. Every single one of them had their chins hanging down. They had died in extreme fear. The space between their brows had been pierced through, and they had died under the mouth of the divine crocodile. Based on my many years of experience, these people have been dead for more than 20 years. Based on their bones, each of them seems to have lived to be 25 or 26 years old. Of course, it would be more professional to invite grave robbers to check the scene. The Black Emperor said. That's right, it's them without a doubt, Pang Bo said solemnly. Even though the 3's hair was withered, it was still there after all. Their hairstyles were completely different from this world's, and based on their bones and height, it was also consistent with the 3 of them from back then. There was a necklace in front of the female's chest, and there was a blood diamond that was stained with dirty blood. It was Wang Yan's favorite, and it was still flickering with bloody light. Back then, the mutton fat jade that Lu Yunji often flaunted is also here. That was his lifeblood, and they died here without a doubt. It was actually this kind of result. This made Yi Fan and Pang Bo feel a wave of disappointment and disappointment. They originally thought that the mystery had been solved, but they didn't expect it to be like this. Yi Fan always thought that Lu Yunji didn't die, and that the enemy in the dark was him. However, when the mystery was truly unraveled, he was at a loss. Were we too heartless back then? Pang Bo said to himself. A gust of wind blew past, and there were fallen leaves floating in the distance. It made them silent, and they didn't say anything for a long time. Monkey and the others stood outside the cave. They couldn't help much with all of this and could only advise them. The people who wanted to kill them had such an unyielding end, so they didn't feel bad about it. That's right. They all had the intention to kill you all. Leaving them alive will only bring about great trouble. If they die, then so be it. They deserved it, Li Heishui said. Yi Fan squatted down and carefully examined them again. In the end, he could only sigh and stand up, saying, I actually hope that they didn't die. Who exactly was the mastermind? It was confusing. He originally thought that he had guessed it, but in the end it was all for naught. After seeing this result, Yi Fan felt very uneasy. There's no need to be conflicted. Let this emperor use a small technique to restore their true appearance and see the final result, the Black Emperor said. A beam of dim light shot out from between its brows, and the heads of the 3 skeletons immediately had flesh-like substances regenerate, reconstructing their facial features and restoring their original appearance. Not bad. It's actually very simple, and we can find out with this small technique. Monkey nodded. That wasn't flesh and blood, but divine power. Based on the original appearance of the bones, it could reproduce the true appearance of the deceased. Yi Fan and Pang Bo watched nervously. After a moment, the faces of the 3 gradually filled up and transformed back to their original appearance, which made them feel a sense of loss. It really was Lu Yunji, Wang Yan and the others. Stop it. There's no need to reconstruct it. It's them. They left the tiger cave and walked out of the forbidden area. Yi Fan was deep in thought. What went wrong? Why did it go against his intuition and deduction? There's nothing suspicious. It gave us a shock, Pang Bo said. GZUS said, it's the most suspicious when there's nothing suspicious. It's obvious that they thought that you all would come to seek confirmation, and they targeted every detail to mislead you, making you believe that they're really dead. That's right. Yi Fan nodded. Summon Duanda. Pang Bo said. That's right. Call the grave robber over. He has special methods to distinguish between the real and the fake, the Black Emperor said. Even he had to admire Fatty Duan's expertise and believe in his methods. The so-called summoning of Duanda was very simple. They believed that as long as they spread the news that the tomb of the great sage had appeared, this damned Fatty would definitely rush over. Of course, there was definitely no need this time because the victorious Fighting Buddha's battle here had shaken the entire southern region. He believed that the various powers and people like Duanda would definitely come to investigate. As expected, on that day many cultivators came to this wilderness, and they all came from various powers. The Black Emperor had no patience and shouted, Summon Duanda. He spread a rumor among the crowd that the outside of the forbidden area had cracked open, and many large ravines had appeared. An ancient tomb had appeared, and it was suspected to be the tomb of a saint. It could be said that the effect was excellent. Duanda appeared alive and kicking, and his speed was so fast that it left people speechless. When Yi Fan, the Black Emperor, and the others appeared, Duanda immediately stomped his feet and cursed them, saying that they were too evil. This was not the first time that they had caused him to rush back from the central continent. Brother Duan, your business is really busy. I have no choice but to trouble you this time. Immeasurable celestial being, this humble Taoist is about to become a summoned beast. Damn it, don't call me next time if you don't have a king or above weapon as a reward. Duanda said with a black face. When he returned to the tiger cave, all the hair on Duanda's body stood up. He took a few steps back and revealed a serious expression. What kind of existence did you guys provoke? Fatty, are you trying to scare us and then ask for a sky-high reward? The Black Emperor bared his teeth and said, I'm telling the truth. An extremely terrifying malicious spirit has stood here before. In my entire life, I've only encountered one in the tomb of an ancient great sage and I almost died there. Fatty Duan's heart was palpitating with fear. It can't be, right? It's just a cave, 3 dead humans, 3 dead tigers and over 10 dead crocodiles. How could a ghost king be born? Duanda took out an ancient mirror. It was something he had stolen from the ancient tomb he had just mentioned. It was also the reason why Yi Fan and the others had invited him here. They needed this treasure and had used it in the purgatory below Falling Eagle Cliff. This was the only Dao bone left behind by the great sage of the human race after he transformed into the Dao. It was the one on his forehead that had existed for eternity. The frontal bone was the immortal Dao bone of a human. Using it to grind into a mirror, there would be innate Dao runes that were boundlessly profound and had many wondrous uses. The mirror flashed, illuminating the interior of the ancient cave. A dim scene appeared. Lu Yunji, Li Changqing, Wang Yan, and the others had expressions of terror on their faces. The tigress returned to its cave and the divine crocodile crawled over. Everything was as they had predicted. At the crucial moment, the mirror flashed and a blurry figure entered the cave, killing the divine crocodile and tiger. He then grabbed the unconscious Lu Yunji, Li Changqing and Wang Yan. As expected, it changed again. Someone concealed the truth here. Pang Bo shouted and clenched his fists. At this moment, Duanda actually broke out in a cold sweat. He couldn't help but tremble and said, This time we've met a big one. This is the first time I've seen one in my entire life. Suddenly the light from the mirror flashed one last time. The moment the blurry shadow grabbed the 3 people and walked out of the ancient cave, it suddenly turned around and revealed a cold smile at the people in the mirror. For the first time it revealed its true appearance. It was actually a terrifying malicious spirit. Before this, everything was blurry and they couldn't see its form. But at this moment they truly saw it for the first time. It was malevolent and terrifying. It had snow-white teeth, dead fish-like eyes and a jet-black body. There wasn't the slightest bit of vitality and the aura of death pervaded the air. They couldn't help but retreat. This malicious spirit was too frightening. It suddenly appeared in the mirror, causing the little phoenix in Jizue's bosom to stand up. The light in the bone mirror dimmed. Everything disappeared and could no longer be seen. The cave became extremely quiet and a cold aura pervaded the air. It's the malicious spirit we saw in the ancient bronze coffin. Peng Bo said. That's right, it really followed us out. Yi Fan's heart sank. The 3 of them weren't killed by the divine crocodile at all. They were rescued by the malicious spirit and covered up the truth of this place. This made them feel somewhat apprehensive. Yi Fan and Pang Bo thought of the past at the same time. Back then, a classmate died mysteriously in the bronze coffin. His neck was bruised and full of bloody marks. It looked like the fingerprints left behind by a malicious spirit and seemed to have been strangled to death. As a result, a confrontation occurred and even Yi Fan was involved. Although he tried to prove that the person was killed by the divine crocodile, the purple fingerprints on his neck were very obvious and difficult to explain. His speculations at that time were somewhat far-fetched. In that case, that classmate was strangled to death by the malicious spirit before the divine crocodile drilled into his body. Pang Bo quivered and shivered. Back then, that person was right next to Yi Fan and was almost right next to him. Just like that, he mysteriously died. Now that he understood the truth, Yi Fan couldn't help but shiver. The malicious spirit had been so close to him before. Duanda broke out in cold sweat and said, Damn, you guys are always looking for trouble for me. This kind of malicious spirit is completely different from the Yin spirits we speak of. Its cultivation is terrifyingly deep. Who knows, it might be an old ghost of 6 or 7,000 years old. Lu Yunji, Li Changqing and Wang Yan didn't die. Now there's even a malicious spirit and a divine crocodile. Could there be other things that crossed over with us? Pang Bo muttered to himself. The process of crossing the starry sky was far more complicated than they had imagined. Wait a moment, you said that you guys went to Mars and that it was a place suppressed by a baldy called Sakyamuni? Duanda's eyes lit up as if he had thought of something. I remember now. When I went to an overseas sea demon tomb to do archaeology, I met an old baldy. He seemed to be one of the 10 disciples of that baldy Sakyamuni. We chatted for most of the night and he said some things. Chapter 880. Within the ancient sea demon tomb, the old monk and Duanda sat facing each other. They talked about the strangeness of the tomb in a clear and logical manner. He had gotten rid of many evil spirits, but none of them were as world-shaking as the one suppressed by the Shakyamuni. He said that it was born from the death of a great completion saint physique. It was a type of extremely powerful evil intent that no one could subdue back then. It was extremely ferocious. In the end, the Shakyamuni took action and used a Buddhist technique to cut off 90% of its cultivation and remove its Tao roots. Only then was it subdued and imprisoned under the Thunderclap Temple, banishing it to the 18 levels of hell. The evil intent of a great completion saint physique? Pang Bo was astonished and revealed a thoughtful expression. Could it be the will of a god? He said that it was a type of malicious spirit that had already become a saint ancestor. Now that I think about it, it must be the so-called will of a god. Duanda said. According to legend, the will of a god was a type of evil intent born after the death of a god. However, first there was the undying heavenly emperor, then the sun saint emperor, and finally the great completion saint physique. All of them had such an evil appearance after death. They weren't gods. Who in this world has ever seen a god? From what I see, it's the most powerful existence of a generation that has been endlessly deified and worshipped as a god, the Black Emperor said. Yi Fan's heart sank. The malicious spirit was the will of a god with a great completion saint physique. This made him feel extremely uneasy. What kind of karma did this have to do with him? It seemed to have some kind of connection and had come for him. That old monk said that the things that the Shakyamuni suppressed could all be considered gods. The reason why some existences are so difficult to destroy and still have a strand of will left behind in this world is related to their past achievements, Duanda said. What are you talking about? The monkey asked. Who in this world could avoid death? This was a difficult problem that even the ancient emperors had been trying to solve. No one had been able to solve it, but they had found many ways to prolong one's life. Those who had great achievements in this world would be worshipped by others. They could create an immortal legend that would allow the fruit of Tao to exist forever and even live 2 lifetimes. This was what the ancient emperors had discovered. Many creatures in the world respected a single person, worshipping him every day. It was as if they had forged a type of willpower that was added to the great emperor's body, allowing them to become even more undying, moving towards eternity. However, this kind of person was very difficult to destroy. The deity's will that Shakyamuni suppressed was a person with great merits when he was alive. After his death, people still remembered him and silently recited his glorious great virtue. As a result, a strand of his divine sense was reborn and became the deity's will. Is this how God's will is born? The few of them had broadened their horizons. They couldn't help but admit that the quasi-emperor's knowledge was indeed extraordinary. He had some of the atmosphere and vision of an ancient emperor. Bodhi is everywhere, faith gathers, the sect is immortal. Li Tian recalled the prophecy of the 2 spiritual children from the heavenly village and looked at each other. Things like that are bestowed by others. The crux of the matter is still up to oneself. Otherwise, why would the primeval emperor not treat this path as the only way to achieve longevity? He must have discovered something wrong with it, said Yi Fan. Let's talk about the malicious spirit. Taoist Duan, you can't be telling us that the black ghost in the copper coffin is the divine will of the great completion divine physique, right? Pang Bo asked. Duanda nodded and said, I feel like it should be him. He came from the great thunderclap temple of Mars. What else could there be? Everyone sucked in a cold breath of air. The malicious spirit's origins were so great. It was actually the will of a deity. This kind of thing was the most terrifying. It was almost like a deity when it was alive, and even after death it was still immortal. It had the power to transcend the laws of the world. This is definitely not a normal great completion divine physique. It must be one of the 9 unequaled existences of the past, said the Black Emperor. In the past, the reason why the Great Completion Divine Physique intimidated the entire ancient star and had the power to be the #1 physique under the heavens was mainly because the 9 supreme beings that appeared during the desolate antiquity era were too powerful. Each and every one of them was unequaled in the heavens above and earth below. They swept through the heavens and suppressed everything. One was destroyed and not long after, another appeared, connecting this kind of glory. It was impossible not to intimidate the people's hearts, and it was impossible for the people to forget them even if they wanted to. It could be said that during that period, their accomplishments and brilliance illuminated the entire world. All creatures of this ancient star worshipped them, and only these types of people could give birth to the will of a deity. Right, it must be like this. The undying heavenly emperor was revered by all races, and as such, a strand of his divine will didn't disappear after his death. The Sun Holy Emperor's status in Ziwei ancient star domain was the same. He was also worshipped by all creatures of this world, and a deity's will was similarly born. Correct? Of the 9 unequaled Great Completion Divine Physiques, several of them left this ancient star and went to outer space. There were some who never returned, and that was definitely the evil will that was born after one of them passed away in meditation. They made all types of deductions and had many thoughts. They felt that they should be close to the truth of the matter. That day this poor Taoist and that old monk discussed for a long time. We talked about all types of ghosts with cultivation and we had the same opinion. They were scared of the past glorious body, and at the same time, they were also very hopeful, wishing to possess it, said Duanda. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Yifan felt a chill run down his spine. The malicious spirit in the bronze coffin mainly came for him because they were of the same type. It was scared of the flesh and wanted to destroy it, but it also had a type of hope, wishing to obtain it. This was a type of contradictory mentality. Duanda said, in reality there is no need to worry. That old monk said that the Great Completion Divine Physique's divine will had 90% of its cultivation shaved off by Sakyamuni, and even its Tao root was removed. It was also suppressed for close to 2,000 years, so it has long become extremely weak. Moreover, the divine blood naturally countered this type of evil will that was born after death. It couldn't get close to him, especially now that it didn't have a Tao root. Even if it recovered a bit of its cultivation, it would still be limited. If it is as expected, the Great Completion Divine Physique transformed into a malicious spirit is nothing to worry about. It can't do anything to Yifan. He took away 3 people, Lu Yunji, Li Zhangqing and Wang Yan. They are all chess pieces and they are suspected to have entered the Immortal Palace. Pang Bo said in a low voice. These people understood Yifan very well. They had learned some terrifying methods and they were hidden in the dark. They must be a great enemy. Why can't I enter this damned Immortal Palace? This poor Taoist has come here many times, but never had the chance to go in for archaeology. Stealing graves and digging graves? No, Duanda would never do such a thing. In his words, this was archaeology, exploring ancient secrets and revealing prehistoric secrets. He was unwilling to pass on this responsibility, and he was willing to dedicate his life to it. In the end, they left the mountain ridges and disappeared into the boundless barren mountains. Knowing who the enemy was, they finally had some confidence in their hearts and could make targeted arrangements. Half a month later, the Sky Demon Treasure Tower, the Ji family's Divine Pavilion, the Jiang family's Treasure Pavilion, the Jade Pool Immortal House, and other major auction houses as well as many merchant companies, all bought the 5 colored precious stones together. Once this news spread, the 5 regions were immediately in an uproar and it caused quite a storm. No one knew what had happened. Why did all the major corporations take action together? Finally, some well-informed people dug out the ultimate secret. Someone wanted to build a 5-colored altar and charge into the outer realm, entering the boundless and brilliant starry sky. Who is it? Has he really gone mad? Or is it that the great sage wants to do this? A great era is coming, and they are all going to enter the outer realm to develop? Everyone was shocked and the world was in an uproar. This caused a huge uproar. The 5-colored precious stone was not jade, but a crystal formed from an ancient spiritual tree. This tree had long since gone extinct on this ancient planet, and some crystals could occasionally be dug out from the ground. They were very rare. All the major merchant companies moved together, searching frantically. Naturally, this caused the price of this precious stone to soar. All the source gatherers abandoned their profession and joined the quarrying industry. Everyone had a premonition that a storm was about to arrive. With such a large-scale collection of 5-colored stones, it was likely that someone would really succeed in entering the outer realm in the future. During this period, people from various black markets and auction houses were also collecting all the ancient transportation formations. As long as it was related to crossing the star domain, even a corner of the formation patterns would be worth a heavenly grade. Apart from this, there were some formation pattern grandmasters and some ancient inheritances that sent over rare treasures, inviting them to a mysterious place to study the five-colored altar together. They would open the path to the outside world, and many grandmasters were needed to work together. Later on, even the various ancient races were affected. Some people offered high prices, and these were all rare and irresistible treasures. They wanted to purchase every type of divine stone they could find. Many people knew that not only could the five-colored altar cross the star domain, but the ancient emperor's divine altar could also do so. Back then, Yi Fan had returned from the Ziwei ancient star domain using this method. It was obvious that the people hiding in the dark were crazy. They wanted to go to the outer realm and collect both kinds of precious materials without restraint. They were waiting for an opportunity. It was to the extent that some ancient race formation pattern masters were invited. They were tempted by rare treasures and gathered together to study them. One could see the urgency of the people involved. Who is doing all this? Everyone wanted to know. They vaguely felt that it might be the work of the same great power. In the end, the mortal world and the infernal realm took action. They looted the two corporations and plundered all the precious stones they had purchased. After finding out that they were indeed purchased for the same power, they offered a large sum of money. On the same day, someone issued a bounty to retaliate. Anyone who could kill a disciple of the two divine assassin dynasty would be rewarded with a sky-high price. This caused the storm to become more and more intense. This made people increasingly astonished. Just who was it that was squandering resources like this? Just which great power was it that was so extravagant? Could it be that there really were immortal treasures in the outer realm? In the following half a month, people from the divine assassin dynasty fell continuously. Those who went out to carry out missions all ended in failure. Someone was targeting them as if there was a great hatred. It's the human race's divine physique that's collecting the five-colored precious stones. Finally, on this day, the mortal world released a shocking piece of information. They had looted another corporation and finally found some clues by following the vines to the melon. The world was in an uproar when this news came out. What was Yi Fan trying to do? He dared to plunder the five-colored precious stones everywhere. Did he really want to build an altar and leave this world? Many people knew that he had gone to the outer realm and had returned successfully. They were full of curiosity towards him and wanted to know the truth. Why do I feel like he's fleeing from a disaster and urgently wants to leave? What exactly is going on? On that day, Yi Fan and the people around him refuted the rumors. They said that they weren't the ones purchasing the five-colored precious stones and that they didn't know who was doing it, so they shouldn't make unnecessary associations. In less than 2 days, an ancient race formation master revealed a heavenly secret. Someone had used a small piece of Daluo silver essence to persuade him to leave the mountain and enter a mysterious place to be in charge of repairing a corner of the formation patterns. You're still saying it's not the human race's divine physique, Yi Fan? Only he can take out such a priceless divine material. According to that great master, he was brought to a very mysterious place. There was a five-colored altar that was almost complete, and each great master was only in charge of a small area. As long as they could repair it, they would have completed their mission. Everyone was shaken and the world was shocked. Did the human race's divine physique really have such a great skill? He had restored a five-colored altar. Was he really going to open the path to the outer realm? I'll repeat myself. This matter is definitely done by someone else. It has nothing to do with me. Yi Fan stood out once again to refute the rumors. He then no longer showed his face. Which madman is doing all of this? Why is he doing this? People were confused. They felt that a storm was brewing. Something big was definitely going to happen. Chapter 881. The commotion became more and more intense. Later on, many people in the 5 regions believed that someone was building a five-colored sacrificial altar that would lead to the outer realm. All the major corporations bought the precious stones from all over the world. The price kept rising and the supply couldn't keep up with the demand. They had vaguely replaced the source and became the most precious currency among the cultivators. In the heavenly village, Qi Luo asked suspiciously, "You guys really didn't do it?" Everything was left to the Black Emperor. It really wasn't me. Yi Fan sat cross-legged on the cliff and absorbed strand after strand of essence into his body. What a shameful extravagance. How much source energy is used up? It's too wasteful. Qi Luo felt distressed and couldn't understand. This emperor wants to conduct a grand research to see if we can restore the five-colored sacrificial altar of the ancient emperors and open the path to the outer realm, the Black Emperor said shamelessly. Just for this? Qiluo asked. What else do you think? The Black Emperor trained the two Silver Blood Emperors while immersing himself in comprehending the formation patterns. You guys are too extravagant. How many people do you have to kill to earn so much source energy? Qiluo felt his heart ache. It's fine. Yifan dug up 6 or 7 dragon veins a while ago and obtained a lot. It's enough for us to squander. Li Tian waved his hand and said generously. What are you guys trying to do? Qiluo didn't believe their words. Someone wants to smash a group of enemies to death with source energy. Li Heishui didn't care at all. He was barbecuing breakfast at the side. The meat was golden and fragrant. Smash who? Little Kate held a milk bottle and blinked her big eyes. She stood at the side and stared at the fragrant roasted meat. Unfortunately, she was still too young to eat this kind of meat. Tong Tong and the two spirit children were enjoying their breakfast and showing off in front of the little girl. In the end, the little girl smashed her milk bottle. There's a group of unknown people. After learning that Yifan is about to leave, they will most likely use all kinds of methods to cause trouble and lure them out, Yenishi explained. What if they don't come? It's fine even if they don't come. Just treat it as gathering materials for the Black Emperor so that he can go further in the field of formation patterns, Yifan said. Kid, you really have a good eye. This is a good investment. I like you more and more. The Black Emperor grinned from the side, laughing so hard that he wanted to beat him up. He was like a big-tailed wolf, as fake as he could be. It browsed through all kinds of ancient texts, all of which were formation pattern treasures purchased at heavenly grade. Then it raised its head and raised its no longer bald tail. It crossed the void and entered a secret area. There was a 5-colored altar that was currently being constructed. The more secretive it was, the more curious people became, and the more they wanted to get to the bottom of it. Yifan and the others were very mysterious, which naturally aroused the curiosity of many cultivators. The mystery of the 5-colored altar drew more and more people's attention. Now, many people believed that it was about to be completed and that it was about to be opened. Some people believed that it would lead to outer space. Did you all know that it is actually the ancient races who are collecting precious stones? They aren't human cultivators at all. They want to enter the star domain and embark on their return journey. This ancient star originally didn't have so many races. Even the humans appeared later, and the so-called 10,000 archaic races all crossed over from outer space. As for the natives, they had long since disappeared. Some people speculated that this was a large operation by the 10,000 archaic races. They were going to enter deep into the star domain and embark on their return journey to search for primitive ancient stars. Everyone has been misled. Do you all remember that there is a path leading to outer space in the Marvel's Manor? It is about to open and a group of young heroes will be sent over. They are the ones who are collecting precious stones. During this period of time, all kinds of speculations were made. People ignored this matter itself and raised it to another level. Wrong, everyone guessed wrong. It should be the work of the human race's sacred physique. Did you all forget? He left the star domain in the past and then came back. It is clear that he learned of the 5-colored altar's secret in outer space and can now travel through the starry skies. As soon as this speculation was made, an uproar broke out. Many people began to mutter. Yifan was the only person who had successfully traveled between the cosmos. If it was him, then it really was possible. During this period of time, a few other major events happened that couldn't help but raise people's eyebrows. There were even some that caught the attention of the ancient races. The southern demon finally severed his Tao. On the day of his Tao completion, 9 great demon stars appeared in the heavens. Each one of them suppressed the sun and traversed the entire southern mountains, shocking the world. Demon stars, according to the ancient records of the human race, were stars that foretold calamity. The ones with the least harm were like comets. On the day the southern demon severed his Tao, 9 of the strongest demon stars appeared. It was truly shocking. On this day the entire world was shaken and everyone was discussing it. The appearance of 9 great demon stars was a miraculous sight rarely seen throughout the ages. It was rumored that from ancient times until now, only the Azure Emperor had such a miraculous sight when he was young. Some people connected the 9 great demon stars that hung across the southern mountains together and discovered that they looked like an emperor's crown. This made people even more astonished. This kind of Tao-severing miraculous sight was truly shocking. Everyone was filled with reverence towards the demonic imperial palace. Could it be that a great emperor of the demonic race would appear in the future? Almost at the same time, several other major events happened. Some people were happy while others were worried. Grievous news came from the Jiuli dynasty in the Middle Continent. The fifth prince Xunli, whom they had placed all their hopes on, failed to sever his Dao and passed away on the Dao platform. His decades of cultivation were all for naught. In the eastern wastelands, the Dao One Holy Ground's old holy master died in seclusion and turned into a skeleton. He was 2,875 years old. The older generation could not help but grieve. Although many of them were lifelong enemies, they did not have as much enmity anymore. They could only lament that their time was running out. Almost at the same time, the Holy Master of Grand Yen passed away. Sky Demon Palace also sent out news that a 3,600-year-old demon king had turned into a skeleton. Moreover, the Sky Demon Palace master passed away at the same time. Could be said to be a double blow. Losing two important figures caused the Sky Demon Palace to be in a gloomy fog. People could not help but sigh. The end of one era meant the rise of another. For the older generation, it was the end of their twilight years. Not long after, another shocking news came and attracted the attention of the world. Hua Yunfei and the Western Desert Buddhist female bodhisattva, Zhu Qing, fought fiercely and destroyed the famous Amitabha mountain range. The 5 regions were shaken. Unfortunately, the world did not know who won and who lost. Not long after, an old monk from an ancient temple revealed that Zhu Qing had returned alive, but his injuries were not light. As for Hua Yunfei, people did not know whether he was dead or alive, let alone whether he won or lost. That old monk did not say much. In the past, the Central Emperor, Southern Demon, and Western Bodhisattva stood side by side. Now, Hua Yunfei could already fight a decisive battle against Western Bodhisattva. He wanted to seize her Buddhist origin. His growth was terrifying. The heaven-devouring demonic art once again became a shadow in people's hearts. A few ancient sects allied together and sent out experts. Everyone wanted to capture him. If he was allowed to grow, the danger would be too great. In the future, countless experts from the great sects would become his prey. He has always been low-key. He would rather enter ancient tombs to search for corpses than wantonly bring disaster to the world. Has he finally become unrestrained? Heavenly Village's Yi Fan muttered to himself. A few days later, another piece of news came out. Wavering Light Saint Child took action and displayed his terrifying battle prowess. He chased after Wang Teng for 300,000 li. Once the holy light appeared, all methods turned to ashes. It was difficult for it to touch the body. It illuminated the entire northern prairie, leaving many cultivators terrified. They couldn't endure that type of pressure. In this battle, Wavering Light Saint Child displayed a terrifying strength, killing Wang Teng until he couldn't retaliate at all. The glorious North Emperor was someone who stood side by side with the Central Emperor, Southern Demon, and Western Bodhisattva. Just how formidable was he? All of the sects under the heavens were optimistic about his future. However, ever since he was wiped out by Yi Fan more than 10 years ago, his reputation plummeted. However, his strength was still there and few people could stand shoulder to shoulder with him. Now he suffered a great defeat again. The reason why Wavering Light Saint Child took action was extremely simple. Wang Teng killed one of his junior brothers. Of course, this was only what Wavering Light said. As for whether or not he killed anyone, no one knew. He did it for the former character of the 9 secrets. When Heavenly Village's people heard the news, they came to this conclusion. Yi Fan had also been searching for Wang Teng this entire time, but unfortunately he didn't find any clues. In this battle, Wang Teng was almost crippled. Wavering Light Saint Child chased him for 150,000 kilometers. His body was split into pieces and in the end, a crane appeared and took his head. It's that crane again. The ancient Chaos Emperor's inheritance was given to him by that old crane. It carried him away when he was young. Yi Fan and the others were astonished after hearing this. The crane took action and saved Wang Teng. Although Wavering Light Saint Child didn't succeed, he still killed another person. The only survivor of the Divine Spirit Valley, the Purple Sky Phoenix, was connected to Wang Teng. She led a group of people to ambush Wang Teng, but they were all killed by Wavering Light Saint Child. None of them could escape. Wang Teng is finished. He's become a stepping stone for Wavering Light. I'm afraid he won't be able to accomplish anything from now on, Li Heishui said. Not necessarily. If he keeps losing and completely shattering his Dao heart, he might be able to recast a demon embryo in the future, Duanda said. Losing once or twice isn't enough. He has to keep losing. Can't you be more abnormal? Li Tian said. Forget it. This kind of cultivation level isn't something you guys can understand. Fatty Duan shook his butt and went for a walk in the cemetery of the Heavenly Village. In his words, looking at these graves made his mood very good. However, Qiluo's mood was very bad. He wanted nothing more than to scrape him off. He ordered a few assassins to keep an eye on him all day long. If he dared to rob the graves, he would immediately report it and be hunted down together. Black Emperor, have you finished engraving the Wuxia killing formation? This time I've prepared rare natural treasures for you. You can unleash their power at the crucial moment, right? Yi Fan asked. During these past few days, the Black Emperor had been very busy. Yi Fan had spent an astronomical amount of money to gather 5 colored precious stones for him. He had also bought all kinds of ancient books on formation patterns. It wasn't that he didn't have conditions to let him engrave the killing formation. Now he had already completed 5 formation patterns and only the last one was left. It was obviously incomparably detailed and much more exquisite than before. It was only for the sake of unleashing the greatest power. A corner is enough. You made me make so many. Do you want me to tire myself to death? The large black dog stuck out his large scarlet tongue. He was extremely unwilling. A month later, the secret of the 5-colored altar was finally gradually revealed. Another formation pattern grandmaster revealed the truth. It was a valley and it was in the north region. Moreover, the person in charge was undoubtedly the human race's Saint Physique because he had seen that large black dog. The 5-colored altar was almost complete. It was constructed according to the formation pattern that the human race's Saint Physique had brought back from the outer region. Only some details were repaired by them. Do you guys know that the human race's Saint Physique, Yi Fan, is about to open the ancient path of the galaxy? I've heard. He'll be crossing the galaxy in a few days. It's really shocking. Afterwards, people discovered that the old saint of the Marak Stone Square, Wei Yi, had disappeared. It was rumored that he had been taken away by Yi Fan to guard the 5-colored altar in case something unexpected happened. The human world and hell mobilized on a large scale, wanting to destroy the 5-colored altar wantonly. Then they followed the clues and found an important clue. They announced it to the public. The 5-colored altar was in a desolate mountain range in the west of the north region. Moreover, they believed that the 5-colored altar really was about to be completed, that it would be opened in a few days. They were mortal enemies with Yi Fan. Now that they were doing so much, Heaven's Village's people didn't get angry, instead laughing. 2 days later, news spread from the north region. Wu Zhongtian and Jianghu had appeared. They were trapped in the 9 underworlds mountain, and they were calling for help. On the same day, someone in the south region consigned a jade sculpture. It was a beautiful woman, and the seller said that there was a real person. If anyone was willing, they could bid for it at a high price. This woman's name was Xianxia, and she came from the outer region. This caused a great commotion. Moreover, on this night, shocking news spread from the central region. A celestial medicine had appeared in the Broken Heaven mountain range. It had taken the form of a human, and wherever it passed, its fragrance filled the mountains. Someone carved out its appearance. It was actually a little girl. Her skin was fair and delicate, and there were tear stains on her little face. She looked exactly like little Nan Nan. Chapter 882. In the eastern wasteland, shocking waves struck the heavens as tens of thousands of waves surged. After the news spread, everyone could not remain calm. Many people could not sit still anymore. With the completion of the 5-colored altar, Yi Fan would leave this ancient star region and cross the sky to enter the unknown ancient stars. This was a huge wave. And now, the series of events that had happened at this critical juncture made people realize that it was related to him. Someone was targeting him. Lin Jia, apart from a few people, was previously unknown to everyone. She had been carved into a beautiful jade statue by someone, and was actually a woman from outside the wastelands. This caused many people to be moved, and many people wanted to bid for her. Soon, some people spread the secret. This beautiful woman came from the same place as Yi Fan and was his old friend. Auctioning this woman at this critical juncture must be to ignite the anger of the human race's holy body and make it impossible for him to cross the star region. This is specifically targeted at him. People had reason to believe that Yi Fan would be seething with anger when he heard this news. This was a provocation that was close to humiliation. Selling his companion like a commodity was a provocation. Some people went to verify this. The Hu family of the Eastern Wasteland was in charge of this auction. Even the slogans were spread. The fairy from the outer realm is exceptionally intelligent. The fusion of different civilizations can produce brilliant light. It is like the wisdom of 1,000 years of enlightenment. The southern region erupted into commotion that day. Many people wanted to take action, all of them determined to win, wishing to get involved. Of course, those who had friendly relations with Yi Fan all broke out in cold sweat for him. They were clearly trying to lure him into a trap. In the central region, the situation was even worse. Little Nan Nan's tear-stained appearance attracted attention from all directions. Many people recognized at first glance that the so-called immortal medicine was the little girl who used to be at Yi Fan's side. She was the pitiful little tail that had been missing for many years and had finally reappeared. Yi Fan was about to activate the five-colored altar and cross the starry sky. Little Nan Nan's appearance at this time made him feel uneasy. He had no choice but to save her. This was also a difficult problem. The Broken Sky Mountain Range was not a good place. It was not a place that ordinary people could enter. It stretched across the sky and astral winds howled. There was a divine wind of the great path blowing, and ordinary people would be turned into ashes if they went there. For the human race's divine physique, this is a great calamity. Anything is enough to stop him from crossing the star domain. Someone wants to stop him. Even though he knows that there is danger, he still has to go. This is a great disaster and I really don't know how he is going to get through it. Unless he has a heart of stone and doesn't save a single person. After careful analysis, everyone could predict that someone had done this. It would definitely unite all the people who were hostile to Yi Fan. The southern region auction house and the central region Broken Sky Mountain Range would definitely become a land of bloodshed. Not only were there people who were secretly targeting him, but there were also others who were waiting to act. They would form a combined force that was unimaginably powerful. In just one night, the atmosphere of the entire East continent had changed. It was suffocating and oppressive as if a storm was brewing. Not long ago people were still discussing the mystery of the Rainbow Altar, but now, it had developed to this extent. All of this was because Yi Fan was about to leave, and this type of unforeseen event occurred. I can already smell the pungent stench of blood, as if I can see the shadows of blades, mountains of corpses and seas of blood. This time, I don't know how many people will die. An old cultivator sighed. This was an instinctive premonition. At this moment, everything was extremely peaceful. However, everyone knew that this was only the surface. Murderous intent would definitely erupt at a certain moment. Everyone was waiting. They all had a premonition that this would inevitably be a crazy wave that would engulf the entire East continent. A few declining old cultivators who already had one foot in the coffin felt their hearts palpitate. They repeatedly warned the people beside them not to get involved. However, how many people would listen? Who would believe them? In the heavenly village, Qi Luo's expression was heavy. There was a haze in his heart. Everything in the outside world was too bad for the celestial court, or to be more precise, for Yi Fan. Do you have any countermeasures? Yi Fan sat cross-legged on the cliff. Innate essence was inhaling and exhaling from every pore, making his body look like a golden glaze without a trace of impurities. Radiance illuminated his body. He was very calm and said, "Everything is under control." When Qi Luo heard this, he almost flipped the stone table. He said angrily, "Still under control? It's all because of your rainbow altar. How can you still be so calm?" "Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. When the time comes, I'll still need Elder Qi's help," Yi Fan said solemnly. "Alright, even you aren't worried, so what do I have to worry about? The weather is really good. I'm going to bask in the sun." Qi Luo walked down the mountain with his hands behind his back. Beside him, the pink little bird followed him. Ancestor Qi, that damn fatty, disappeared from the cemetery. Someone at the foot of the mountain transmitted anxiously. "What? Damn it. Go and kill him." Qi Luo couldn't stay calm anymore. He rushed toward the cemetery as if his butt was on fire. It had to be said that Duanda's hobby was very unconventional. He liked to take a walk in the cemetery. In his words, he felt a sense of familiarity when he saw the ancient tombs and the stone tablets. It was much better than those gardens with flowers and plants. He would roam around the killer's cemetery whenever he had nothing to do. This made many killers want to chase him to the ends of the earth. They hated him to the core. Indeed, there are some unexpected things. We need to discuss it. At night, the bonfire flickered. A group of people surrounded the bonfire. None of them were anxious or uneasy. They were all very calm and composed, which made Qi Luo secretly nod his head. Wu Zhongtian and Jianghu are trapped in the Nine Serenities Mountain. We don't know if it's true or not. We have to make a trip there. Brother Heishui will handle this matter. Yi Fan said. This time there was bound to be a bloody storm. They couldn't spare too many people. They asked Li Heishui to invite the bandits, especially the old bastard. Even if he couldn't make a move due to the agreement at the Jade Lake, he had to go and oversee the situation to avoid any accidents. That night, Li Heishui left and disappeared under the starry sky. They discussed for a long time, deducing which enemies would appear. Qi Luo was a little bewildered. These people were too calm and didn't have a trace of worry. He couldn't help but admire them. Elder Qi, it's time to trouble you. Can you find out the bottom line of the two divine dynasties? Who will make a move and how strong will they be? Finally Yi Fan looked at him. Qi Luo muttered to himself. This was a difficult problem. The two divine dynasties of killers were too secretive. People didn't know where their ancient palaces were. They couldn't even attack them. How could they find out? I have two important chess pieces that have been lying in ambush for almost 700 years. I didn't dare to contact them all this time. Now it seems like they'll be put to use. They asked if they could find the highest sacred palace of the divine dynasty of killers. In the end, Qi Luo shook his head. It would be good enough if they could find a few small worlds. There was no need to think about their headquarters. Everything was carried out in full swing. Time was of the essence. During these 2 days all the powers were on the move. Those who wanted to interfere were mobilizing their troops and making arrangements. Bad news came from the southern region. A group of ancient race people were about to make a move. They transported more than half a square of divine source to bid for Xianxia. It was clear that they wanted to go against Yi Fan. There was also news that the people from the primitive lake had also set off for the southern region to participate in the auction. This was a great ancient imperial clan. If they participated, the consequences would be unimaginable. Xianxia is worth so many divine sources. In that case, if we sell ourselves one day, we can also get a sky-high price. There are so many people watching. Pang Bo laughed at himself and clenched his fists. Meanwhile, even more people had gathered at the Broken Heaven mountain range. There was a divine wind of the great Tao there, and it was difficult for ordinary people to approach. However, there were still many elites who came. Some people had already climbed up with difficulty. They sent back accurate news that the top was filled with the fragrance of celestial medicine. With a hurried glance, they saw a little girl moving with the wind. She was delicate and lovely, and she was sobbing softly. Many people said that they were determined to obtain this little girl. No matter who she had followed in the past, they would do everything they could to snatch her today. What arrogant words. Are they going to refine the little girl like an immortal medicine? I really want to see who has this kind of mentality and who wants to make a move. The large black dog sneered. Finally, Qi Luo brought back news. It was extremely important, and when he said it, everyone present felt a wave of fear. The two great assassin god dynasties were determined to ambush Yi Fan this time, and they sent out a large number of assassins. It could be said that they had mobilized a large force, and it was almost as if they had swarmed out, causing everyone to tremble in fear. The assassin god dynasty, Hell. There were 18 small worlds, and they were known as the 18 levels of Hell. In the past, Yi Fan had destroyed one of them when he was undergoing tribulation. This time, 5 prisons were mobilized, and there would be 5 masters of the small world's leading assassins. The assassin god dynasty, Human World. 4 masters of the small worlds would appear, and they would lead countless assassins to attack Yi Fan. As long as he appeared, there would be a bloodbath. It was rumored that he possessed a saint weapon. Apart from that, their divine sons and divine daughters had also been mobilized. The two great ancient assassin organizations would destroy Yi Fan and the people around him at all costs, not giving them a chance to survive. To be able to dig out such important information, it was enough to show how deep Qi Luo's chess pieces were. It had been close to 700 years and he had only begun to use them now. If we can completely wipe out these people, it will be equivalent to cutting off one of the ancient assassin god dynasty's legs. It will be more than a quarter of their strength. Qi Luo said coldly. I wonder who will come and what kind of major characters will face the tribulation. Hua Yunfei, Yao Guang, Saint's son, divine daughter, ancient prince, it would be best if they all come. Duanda wished for the world to be in chaos. I only hope that malicious ghost, Lu Yunji, and the others will appear and not disappoint us, Pang Bo said. They discussed for a long time. Yi Fan frankly said that as long as he appeared, no matter where he was, he would most likely immediately become the main battlefield. However, after thinking for a long time, he said, let's use the Broken Sky Mountain range as the main battlefield. After that, he began to make arrangements. He let Pang Bo, the Black Emperor, Li Tian, and the others go to the Broken Sky Mountain range first. They would first guard everything and wait for him to arrive so that they could attack together. On this day, Yi Fan, Duanda, and the monkey set out for the southern region. They hurried to the important place where Lin Jiao was going to be auctioned. Am I going to cause too much killing? Yi Fan muttered to himself along the way. It's fine. You're just a little unkind. You can't be considered wicked. It's just SOSO, the wicked Taoist Duanda evaluated. It's no big deal. Some people deserve to be executed. The monkey laughed loudly and patted his shoulder. Yi Fan entered the southern region in a high-profile manner. He didn't hide anything and caused everyone to know about it. He released a message asking his old friends who were going to the Broken Sky Mountain range to be lenient. Whoever could protect the little girl would be richly rewarded. This clearly showed that he still had to rush to the Broken Sky Mountain range after rescuing Linjia. He was going to launch a great punitive expedition and fight everywhere. A bloodbath was unavoidable. Now I realize that you're a little wicked. Duanda cursed because he knew the inside story. A great storm was brewing in the southern region. One of the top 10 corporations, the Hu clan, was going to auction the Outer Realm Ferry. The collision of the radiance of different civilizations was comparable to 1,000 years of Tao comprehension. Many people were moved. And now Yi Fan had come to rescue his old friend, Linjia. There was bound to be a great uproar. It was impossible to be kind. Everyone knew that a great storm of blood had begun. Chapter 883. Zilan City was a beautiful city located in the southern region. The city was clean and tidy and everything was in order. Both sides of the streets were filled with purple orchid trees. This kind of fragrant wood was as translucent as amethyst and was several meters tall. Each cluster of flowers seemed to be carved from purple agate and had an intoxicating fragrance. It's really not bad. In the future, if I want to make a cemetery, I'll plant some purple orchid trees, said Duanda. His bad habit was acting up again. The entire city was filled with the fragrance of orchids that refreshed one's heart. It was very livable. Walking on the streets made one feel refreshed and at peace. The Guyu auction house was located in a relatively quiet area of Zilan City. However, today it was noisy and overcrowded with people. It was difficult to enter and exit. There were two enormous chelins in front of the door that flickered with radiance. They were carved from golden chalcedony, possessing a type of grandeur, and even more a type of wealth, dignified and heroic. Inside the auction house, there were richly carved beams and painted rafters. There were giant screens, antique chairs, and thick pillars with dragons and phoenixes coiled around them. Fairies from outside the region. A clash of different civilizations. Interesting. An ancient race youth holding a folding fan laughed. Beside him, a person wearing a devil mask walked in with his head held high. A group of people followed around him, carrying a pile of divine sources. Clearly they were determined to win. I heard that this woman is related to the holy physique Yi Fan. Will there be trouble if he bids like this? Another person discussed in a low voice. The highest bidder wins. Does he want to rob us? Someone said in a dark voice. It was obvious that some people didn't really come for the auction and wanted to target Yi Fan. Even if they couldn't win, they would still find some trouble. He doesn't know the meaning of death. The monkey muttered to himself in the distance. At this time Yi Fan, Duanda, and the others had already entered. However, they had changed their appearances so that they wouldn't attract too much attention. Everyone knew that he would definitely appear today. Everyone please be quiet. The auction will now begin. An old man over 60 years old went on stage. He struck the wooden hammer and began to preside over the meeting. At first there was no commotion. All kinds of materials, weapons and pills were auctioned off peacefully. There was no climax even when a king weapon appeared. Only when the last saint's letter appeared did it cause a commotion. However, it was only 7 or 8 pages and was badly damaged. Even so, many people competed to bid for it. Finally, the white-haired old man knocked on the table and raised his voice. Next, we will auction the fairies from outside the region. The highest bidder wins. Boom. Finally, the tranquil Guyu auction house was ignited. In an instant, it became noisy, the clamor soared to the heavens, all kinds of ear-piercing sounds, many people stood up. Among them, half of them didn't pay attention to the tall platform, instead searching through the crowd, clearly searching for Yi Fan's figure, paying more attention to him. They hid themselves quite well. There is a powerful assassin, but right now I can only sense a few strands of aura. They are all hidden within ordinary people. No one dared to make a move. This place was full of crooks and honest people. If they really wanted to do something, it would probably involve dozens or even hundreds of big powers. Even the Killer God dynasty wouldn't dare to make a move. The so-called fairy from outside the region, why hasn't she come out yet? The auction has already started. Why don't you let us see her? Someone shouted. That's right. Who knows if she's from the sky or a random girl from a brothel? Let us see her first. The Guyu auction house was huge. At this time, there were tens of thousands of people sitting below. This place had the law of space. Sorry, this girl's origin is extraordinary. The collision of different civilizations is comparable to 1,000 years of Tao enlightenment. Only a few spots will be auctioned here. After that, we will go to another place to bid. The old man on the stage said. The audience was in chaos. Many people weren't satisfied. Some didn't buy it and stood up, shouting non-stop. However, it couldn't change anything. The old man on the stage continued. Only those with 800,000 kilograms of origin could enter the next round and go to another place to bid. What? 800,000 kilograms of origin? Are you guys crazy? It's just a girl. No matter how precious she is, she's not worth that much. You don't have to be so ruthless to cheat people. Is there any justice in this world? Even if she's from outside the region, it shouldn't be so ridiculous. In the midst of cursing, more than 10 groups of people went up the stage. Some put down a small piece of the 9 heaven sequence's divine jade, some threw down a small piece of Daluo silver essence, and some put down a few big pieces of divine origin. The hall quickly quieted down. Everyone knew that these were not ordinary people. They were probably here for the human race's holy physique, Yi Fan. The fairy from outside the region was just an extra for them. A tense atmosphere pervaded the air, making people feel stifled. People seemed to smell blood and saw the shadows of blades, white bones and rivers of blood. Through this auction, the enemies of the human race's holy physique have formed an alliance. Many people know that they will definitely work together to kill him. I think some people probably have spatial artifacts on them. Now it looks like it's just one person, but when the time comes, thousands of troops will appear. A few old cultivators were discussing in a low voice. They firmly held on to their nephews, telling them to talk less and watch more and not to run around. More than 10 groups of people went up the stage and were led to another hall that was not open to the public. They left behind a ground full of shining treasures that people couldn't open their eyes. The most ordinary one was the divine origin, and the rest were all precious and rare divine materials. Duanda's heart skipped a beat. Malicious ghosts have his aura. He stared at a stone that was as red as blood on the stage. There were all kinds of complicated Tao patterns on it. Even the people from the auction house didn't know what it was, but they estimated it to be more than 1,000,000 kilograms of origin. Duanda made a certain conclusion. The person who held this bloodstone must have had frequent contact with malicious ghosts. There was an aura on it that made his hair stand on end. Finally here? But I think it's more likely that he's rushing to the Broken Heaven mountain range. Maybe he's just a small character. Yi Fan muttered to himself. In the end, Yi Fan and the others also went up the stage. After a long time, they entered another luxurious ancient hall. It was filled with paintings of famous people, and even the teacups they used had a great history. In the center of the ancient hall was an altar, and there was a flickering formation pattern on it. More than 10 groups of people had already disappeared. They looked at each other and then stepped onto the altar. With a flash of light, they finally appeared in a desert. A magnificent building stood in front of them, and it looked extremely strange. This was one of the few deserts in the southern region. Normally, no one would step on it. The Guyu auction house said frankly that they were afraid of a war and couldn't do it in the city. In the grand hall, more than 10 groups of people sat cross-legged. Some of them revealed a cold smile. They had a special method and knew that Yi Fan had come. Those who are not involved have left. Now it's time for the main show. When can we kill the human Saint Physique? A hoarse voice came over. His entire body was covered in black armor, and even his head and face were covered. This old man is only in charge of the auction. The one on the stage was still that old man with grizzled hair. He said, the highest bidder will get the Outer Realm Fairy. Although they were in the desert, the atmosphere in the hall was extremely cold. More than 10 groups of people emitted a terrifying killing intent, and some of them had already stared at Yi Fan and the others. That's fine. Doesn't that girl come from the same place as the human Saint Physique? They're old friends. A young man frivolously said, then I'll bid for her and use her as a slave. It could be said that this was a naked humiliation. He knew that Yi Fan had come, but he still said this. He didn't give him any face, and it was simply a slap in the face. Duanda transmitted his voice and said, he's not a simple King Tier. He looks very young on the surface, but who knows how long he has lived. The vicissitudes in his eyes can't be concealed, and the astonishing killing intent in his body has been sealed. He's most likely a master of a small world from the god dynasty of assassins. Since he's already here, there's no need to rush. He's already entered the trap, and the human Saint Physique is trapped here alive. What else can't we wait for? Let's just slowly stew him, another person said miserably with a hint of mockery and ridicule. No wonder he's so confident. He has a saint weapon on him. Duanda was horrified. He secretly reminded Yi Fan and the monkey that this was most likely a realm lord from hell. Since he's an old friend of the human saint physique, I have no choice but to bid for him. Wouldn't it be a great achievement to serve as a maid and warm the bed? A young man from the primitive lake said with extreme humiliation. Human saint physique, you're finished. The people from the fallen wing race were even more direct. Their eyes flickered as they looked at Yi Fan, Duanda, and the monkey. Lu Dongfa had died in the hands of Yi Fan, and they had also come. Two old men stood side by side in front of them. They were both at the peak of the king tier, and they both held an 8 treasures demonic bottle that emitted a shocking pressure. It's the magic sealing bottle. Duanda was shocked. This kind of bottle could confine space, render all formation patterns ineffective, and disintegrate all power of laws. It could turn this place into a wasteland without divine laws of order. Yi Fan, it's been so many years and I've missed you so much. We finally meet again. I've been looking forward to our reunion at all times. I really want to see your shocked face. The strange man covered in black armor spoke. He was so eerie that he seemed to have come from the 9 layers of hell. That's him. He's filled with the aura of a malicious ghost. Duanda was an expert and he immediately saw through the clues. At the same time, a chill rose from his body. He knew how terrifying malicious ghosts were through this person. In that case, it must be an old friend who crossed the starry sky with me and came to this world, Yi Fan muttered to himself. The others were incomparably calm, and their expressions were even colder. One could imagine that they would definitely make a move at the crucial moment. They would use their spatial artifacts, and the entire desert might turn into a magnificent army. More than a dozen groups of people represented more than a dozen abnormally powerful and terrifying super forces. On the high platform, the old man was incomparably calm. He followed the prescribed order and continued to host the auction. Lin Jia still hadn't appeared. Moreover, everyone had to first show their treasures and pile them up in front of the auction stage before they could bid. 1 million kilograms of divine source to make the human race's divine physique confidant a female slave. The seemingly young realm lord of the god of assassins dynasty laughed heartily. There was a hint of cruelty in his laughter. I also want a female servant like this. The young man from the primitive lake spoke. The 2 old men behind him presented a large pile of divine source. Not long after, the high platform was piled up with divine materials. All kinds of rare treasures were dazzling, and they flickered with light. It was incomparably dazzling. There weren't many people and most of them didn't move. They had been watching coldly from the sidelines. They weren't that interested in the Outer Realm Fairy, and their main goal was to kill Yi Fan. After a while, someone finally couldn't hold it in any longer and said, "Everyone, have you played enough? Let's kill the turtle in the jar first." That's true. He's already entered the jar himself. He's been simmering for so long and it's almost time. Someone laughed coldly. Swoosh. At this moment, Yi Fan revealed his true appearance. There was no need to hide at all and he stood up. The person whose entire body was covered in black armor was the most excited. Like a night owl crying, he said coldly, "Yi Fan, do you know who I am? I've always been waiting for this opportunity to meet you. I really want to see that shocked and terrified expression on your face." Yi Fan said indifferently, "Unfortunately, you're destined to be disappointed. No matter if it's the past or the present, you're just a small fish." You. This person's energy was extremely heavy. He breathed heavily and only after a long time did he calm down. "Wait until you know who I am. You'll regret it." Actually, I really want to know which Dao friend took action this time to organize this grand auction, allowing so many of us to coincidentally gather together to kill the divine physique. A king-level figure asked this question. The others also wanted to know. "Thank you all for your generous gifts." Yi Fan walked forward with large steps and collected all kinds of rare treasures on the high platform. He then said in a loud voice, "It was me who set up this trap to kill myself." Chapter 884. Everyone present was petrified, including the humans and the ancients. Everyone was dumbfounded. All of this was unexpected and made them feel uneasy. Even the cold and calm assassins of the divine dynasty felt a chill run down their spines. They felt that the seemingly harmless young man in front of them was extremely dangerous. In order to trap and kill the enemy, he had even schemed against himself. It was the bait. It was frightening. I don't like to fall into the rhythm of others. Yi Fan stood on the high platform, calm and composed. He looked down at the people below and said, "Rather than waiting for you all to set up a trap and force me to come out with all kinds of methods, it would be better for me to design it myself and satisfy your desires. Of course, the result will be a completely different appearance and I will be the one to lead you away. What a grand scheme. You've already set up a trap since the five-colored altar and laid so many foundations. The heart of a peak king from the fallen winged race sank, and his expression became extremely unsightly. Everything about the five-colored altar was very mysterious. During the construction process, all information was tightly sealed, making it difficult for people to inquire about it. But when people racked their brains to investigate, everything fell into the rhythm of Yi Fan, and they were all led forward by him. The so-called star domain traversal was merely a catalyst, a kind of foreshadowing. There was a trap within a trap and it would be used one after another. People would fall into the trap and do their utmost to investigate, and in the end, a new trap would automatically be born. When they found out the truth, and learned that Yi Fan wanted to leave this ancient planet, their instinctive thinking was naturally to stop and kill him, not allowing him to cross the universe. And at this time Yi Fan added fuel to the fire, setting up another trap, and Lin Jia was auctioned off. At this time, regardless of whether Lin Jia existed or not, the people in the dark would understand that someone wanted to deal with Yi Fan. Those who hated him would naturally attack, forming a joint force. If it weren't for the Lin Jia incident, there would have been people who would have used sinister methods to make Yi Fan stay. Yi Fan satisfied them by taking the initiative to set up a small trap. Moreover, he used such an abnormal method to kill himself and unite his enemies together. Yi Fan stared at the mysterious person whose entire body was covered in black armor and said, "Even if you knew that Lin Jia wasn't here, you would still rush here because you believed that someone was targeting me and wanted to eliminate me. You wanted to help." During this process, he observed the reactions of the black-clothed men, using his powerful spiritual sense to capture the fluctuations of their divine sense. He wanted to determine whether or not Lin Jia had fallen into their hands. "You knew I was coming?" The man in black armor took a few steps back. Yi Fan smiled coldly. After getting the answer he wanted to know, he no longer cared. Then he looked at the others and sensed the fluctuations of their divine senses. His expression turned cold and he revealed a trace of killing intent. Everyone knew that things were bad. They had fallen into a trap. They rushed out of the magnificent palace and appeared in the desert. They each found an advantageous position to defend themselves. That was because it seemed very difficult to escape. At this moment, the end of the desert was a vast expanse of whiteness. All kinds of mist rose up and flowed like primal chaos. There are so many of us here. What is there to be afraid of? There are even high-level king tiers here. Isn't it enough to kill 3 of them? Someone said coldly. However, the others remained silent. They weren't forcing Yi Fan into a trap. Rather, they had been put into a trap. Who knew what kind of trap was laid out here? There's no need to be afraid. The 2 elders from the fallen winged race stepped forward. They held the 8 treasures demonic bottle in their hands and exuded an astonishing pressure that disintegrated the surrounding power of laws. Indeed, there's nothing to be afraid of. The outcome is irreversible. I came here to end his life. The black-clothed man regained his composure and strode forward. It's been more than 20 years. I've never stopped looking forward to this reunion. Yi Fan, it's time for you to regret it. He forcefully removed his helmet, wanting to reveal his true appearance. Yi Fan smiled calmly and said, "Return in glory? I've said it before. In my eyes you'll always be a small fry. Do you really know who I am?" The black-clothed man was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He seemed to be incomparably agitated as he clenched his fists tightly. "Aren't you the most useless Li Changqing? You've never improved," Yi Fan said lightly. Clang. Li Changqing forcefully smashed his helmet into the distant palace hall, revealing his true appearance. His expression was almost sinister, and his entire body was trembling. He was so angry that he couldn't speak. He had originally thought that he would be able to make a glorious entrance and see Yi Fan's stunned and terrified expression. Unexpectedly, the other party didn't care at all. It was as if he had already predicted everything. It was as if he had meticulously prepared a great show, but in the end no one was watching. It was as if he had punched the air, and it was as uncomfortable as it could be. More than 20 years had passed. Li Changqing's appearance hadn't changed much, only becoming a bit paler. It was as if he didn't see sunlight all year round and lived in the darkness. "Yi Fan, no matter what you predicted, no matter how brilliant and heroic you think you are, there is one thing you can't change, and that is that you must die. No one can save you." Li Changqing went crazy. He had endured bitterly for more than 20 years. He originally wanted to vent his resentment and make a high-profile entrance, revealing his true identity. He never expected that he had long been seen through by someone else. A few light words made him want to vomit blood. I said you didn't improve and you didn't like it. You've already fallen into my rhythm, so how could there not be any arrangements? Yi Fan sneered. Unleash the curse of the deities from outside this region. Li Changqing roared loudly, shaking this entire desert. The boundless yellow sand all flew into the air, and smoke and dust immediately shot in all directions, drowning out heaven and earth. A blood-colored little person appeared in his hand. He was blasted to pieces, turning into streaks of bloody light that flew towards Yi Fan. Heaven and earth became cold as if they had fallen into an icehouse. There were the sounds of ghosts crying and deities howling. As expected, it is a fatal blow. If you aren't prepared, your soul will definitely scatter after being hit. This is a method left behind by a malicious spirit. Duanda said. The heaven-devouring demon cover above his head appeared, and a mysterious 9-star symbol appeared beneath his feet. This was the heaven origin forbidden formation that Yi Fan specially carved for him, using up a sea of divine source as the price to activate the emperor weapon. The heaven-devouring demon cover released a type of emperor might. Even though it didn't truly revive, it still covered heaven and earth, not something normal people could resist. All types of blood-colored light were destroyed, unable to approach him at all. They turned into an expanse of multicolored mist, disappearing into the desert. Li Changqing's expression changed, a hint of fear appearing on his face. He continuously retreated. Originally he was going to attack and kill Yi Fan, but he didn't expect things to develop to this stage. Kill. The Hell God Imperial Court's Lord of a Purgatory shouted. His body emitted a string of blue light, and a spatial artifact opened up. Surrounding him were densely packed killing intent, and he quickly disappeared into the desert, preparing to attack Yi Fan and the others. At the same time, a realm lord of the mortal world also shouted. A yellow ray of light shot out and a large number of killing intent appeared. At this time, the primitive lake, the fallen wing race and the other major forces also made their moves. Their spatial artifacts flashed continuously, and in an instant, thousands of troops appeared. Their banners fluttered in the wind, drowning this place like a tsunami with boundless killing intent. Heaven origin forbidden formation kill. Yi Fan shouted. The entire desert was glowing, and all kinds of divine patterns rushed out, interweaving into a web of order, like the scythe of the Grim Reaper harvesting lives. A sea of Genesis chi was burning, turning into strands of laws, constructing a heaven origin great formation, sealing the desert and extinguishing all kinds of life. Countless people fell to the ground and heads flew into the air. Blood splattered everywhere and beautiful flowers bloomed. Lives were disappearing one after another, cut off by the beams of laws, turning into a rain of light, and disappearing with the wind. This was a massacre. No one knew how many days had passed since the heaven origin forbidden formation had been set up in the desert, quietly waiting for this moment to arrive, just to harvest fresh lives. Ah! Blood-curdling screams rose and fell. This place was covered in a rain of blood, turning into a purgatory on earth. Corpses were everywhere and the scene was too horrible to bear. Magic sealing bottle break. The two kings of the fallen wing race activated an 8 treasures demonic bottle together, emitting strands of black light that illuminated the desert. If it's the magic sealing bottle refined by the great emperor, then we will admit defeat. If it's not, then all of you can rest in peace. Yi Fan lightly shouted, and with a point of his hand, he activated another kind of formation rune. The Wuxia killing formation was revived, illuminating the sky. Boom. Boundless killing intent swept out in all directions. It was as if they had returned to the era when the heavens and earth were split apart, when all living things were born. All kinds of killing power were immortal, vast and mighty. This was a terrifying turn of events. The magic sealing bottle shattered with a bang, and the two kings spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Their bodies were covered in wounds and they were almost shattered. Although it was only a corner of the Wuxia killing formation, its offensive power was heaven-defying. No one present could resist it and miserable screams rang out. In the blink of an eye, thousands of people were turned into a bloody paste, crushed by the killing intent. Purgatory sword unsheathed, heaven-cleaving slash. The king of the Hell God dynasty roared, and a divine sword dripping with blood flew out. It was bright red and beautiful, and it slashed toward Yi Fan and the others. It was incomparably beautiful, and the scarlet sword was stained with a string of blood drops. It let out a woo-woo sound and the sky and earth seemed to be collapsing, and the desert was about to disappear. Seeing this, Many kings went up together to activate this holy weapon, turning it into a dazzling bloody light that dyed the entire sky red. A foul wind and rain of blood filled the air. It's incomplete, and it's not a true holy weapon. Do you think my heaven-devouring demonic lid is fake? Duanda sneered. Using the runes on the ground, he obtained boundless divine power and furiously activated the terrifying demonic lid. The blood sword trembled after flying over, not daring to come close at all. Under the extreme pressure, its brilliance dimmed, and it lost contact with the king behind it. The connection between them was severed. Clang. The heaven-devouring demonic lid released its extreme power, and a strand of black light shot out. The purgatory blood sword instantly fell to the ground and wailed, not daring to struggle at all. Brother Duan, there's no need to waste so much effort. I've prepared 3 Wuxia killing formations. No matter what they've prepared, it's useless, Yifan said. He raised his hand and pointed, and the other 2 killing formations came to life. Strands of terrifying killing intent as thick as mountains rushed out from the desert and filled the sky. Shatter everything. No one could escape even if they wanted to. The desert had long since set up a great formation. No one could escape and all directions were locked down. In the center, the 3 Wuxia killing formations came to life together. Ancient runes flickered, and the brilliance cut through the sky. Killing intent filled the air and flowers of blood bloomed. This place had turned into a hell. Only miserable cries could be heard. Resistance was futile. Even the king could only die if trapped inside. There was no way to resist. Li Zhangqing was swept by a beam of killing light, and he was cut in 2 at the waist. Miserable cries rang out continuously. Yifan grabbed him and shouted, "Where are the malicious spirits?" "Broken Heaven Mountain Range, I'll wait for you." Li Zhangqing was terrified and loudly begged for mercy. However, a black light flashed between his brows, and his entire body shriveled up. He turned into a skeleton and then his head exploded. "Kill!" Duanda shouted loudly. The heaven-devouring demonic jar shook, shattering the black light and not letting it escape. Broken Heaven Mountain Range was also, "You're trapped to kill yourself?" The master of a small world struggled on his deathbed and asked unwillingly. "Correct, everything is going according to my rhythm. Your Killer God Dynasty's main force went to Broken Heaven Mountain Range, right? Very good, I've also set that place as the main battlefield." Yifan laughed coldly. Without any surprises, when the 3 Wuxia killing formations appeared, they killed everyone. The magnificent army turned into a bloody paste, and this desert was dyed red. I hope that all of the enemies will appear in Broken Heaven Mountain Range and come here to settle things once and for all. Yifan's voice reverberated through the desert. Chapter 885. The Great Golden Desert was dyed the color of blood. The stench of blood assailed the nostrils. The rising bloody mist, the broken limbs, and the endless bloody mud on the ground formed an azure diagram of hell. What kind of shock would people feel when they found this place? The magnificent army had turned into skeletons, all of them killed. Yifan picked up the Purgatory Divine Sword, which was as red as the sunset and stained with blood. Fatty Duan put a dilapidated ancient pagoda into his bosom. Monkey looked at a broken fan for a long time. The 3 damaged holy weapons became their spoils of war. The deities inside had long since died and were subdued by the heaven-devouring evil jar. They didn't stay here for long. They turned around and entered the realm gate, disappearing from this place. The majestic building was preserved in perfect condition. The old man in charge of the auction house was still unhurried and calm. He wiped his face with his hand and restored his original appearance. This was the old man who often played chess with Xianxia in the heavenly village. He was in charge of cleaning up the mess. The central region was the birthplace of the Eastern Wasteland civilization. There were many mysterious remains and many ancient ruins from prehistoric times. It was impossible to find their origins. In this vast wasteland, there were many ancient cities scattered about. They weren't connected, but they blossomed with the resplendent flames of civilization that had never been extinguished since ancient times. The Broken Sky Mountain Range was located in a region rarely visited by humans. It was a boundless wasteland that spanned millions of li. This mountain range was majestic and imposing. It was tens of thousands of meters tall. Looking from afar, there was no end to it. Yifan's group crossed the void from the southern region and entered this vast mountain range. They paid close attention to the movements in all directions. Every mountain peak was exceptionally grand and towered into the clouds. The most peculiar thing was that the mountain peaks were all flattened. They were like giant platforms that pierced into the clouds. This was the famous Broken Sky Mountain Range. It was rumored that it was cut off by the heavens because it was too tall. All the mountain peaks were the same height and incomparably neat. They were all black and looked boundlessly majestic under the contrast of the clouds. Before the ancient times, this mountain range towered into the clouds. There was a majestic palace above. Even the ancient races didn't dare to set foot here, said the monkey. The various great king clans didn't dare to rashly approach. This was a restricted area, and only the archaic emperors had visited it before. It was rumored that undying holy spirits resided above. No wonder there are so many legends. Powerful cultivators believe that this place was flattened by the ancient emperors. Yifan said. Only a supreme existence like that possessed such ability. A single strike of the sword flattened a vast mountain peak that stretched for over 1,000,000 kilometers, creating such a miraculous scene that caused one's imagination to wander and fanciful thoughts to run wild. If a human strike could be like this, plucking the stars and moon wouldn't be a big deal. This made people's imaginations run wild. What would the so-called immortals be like? To be exact, they were wiped out by the merciless emperor. Of course, there's no way to verify this. After all, this great emperor's reputation isn't very good. No matter how great his achievements are, it's hard for it to be widely spread, Duanda said. He had the heaven-devouring evil jar, so he naturally knew more about Ruthless than the others. According to the legends, this place was the divine land of the Holy Spirit, and at one time, it posed a great threat to the human race. In his later years, Ruthless massacred this place out of anger. The blood of the Holy Spirit dyed the mountains and rivers of millions of miles red, and the high and mighty heaven palace was flattened with a single strike. If this is true, then this great emperor of your human race really makes one's hair stand on end. It's truly worthy of reverence. In the archaic era, this place wasn't far off from the 7 great life-forbidden zones of today. The monkey sighed with sincere reverence. The virtuous great emperors of the past are worthy of boundless reverence. In terms of mysteriousness, Ruthless is definitely number 1. Even now, we don't know whether he's a man or a woman. Not a single great achievement of his has been passed down, Yifan said. Not long after, they arrived at the central region of the Broken Sky mountain range. Although they were at the same height, the mountain range here was especially majestic and thicker. It was originally a land close to gods, but it was destroyed during the Desolate Era. Occasionally, people could dig out some mysterious rubble at the foot of the mountain that flickered with immortal light. However, it was already impossible to deduce anything from the ancient times. Astral winds whistled as they flew up a broken mountain that was like a sky platform. When they landed on top, endless divine winds of the great Tao blew. Cultivators with insufficient strength would be turned into flying ashes. Those who weren't experts couldn't climb up. There are really quite a lot of people who came. The sky is already filled with shouts. A great battle has broken out. Duanda stared ahead. This region was too big. There were many figures in many places. Some were searching for the immortal medicine, while others were waiting for Yifan to arrive and wanted to ambush him. Just now, someone saw that little girl again. Her fragrance filled the air. It's definitely the immortal medicine without a doubt. It can't be fake because someone even invited Master Lin. He's a Grandmaster-level alchemist. Some people were discussing. They all frantically rushed towards a certain region. Currently, 70% of the cultivators who came to the Broken Sky mountain range were gathered there. However, many people mistakenly entered and found nothing. That was a strange place. It had been like this since ancient times. After entering, it was difficult to determine the direction and it was easy to get lost. It really is an immortal medicine. Dr. Wang is also here. His medical skills are the best in the Eastern Wasteland. It has already been confirmed that this is the immortal medicine. When this news came out, there was a huge uproar. Everyone became even more excited. Those who came here all had different intentions. Many wanted to fish in troubled waters and mix with those who wanted to kill Yifan. Although it said that you can't catch the wolf without sacrificing the child, showing off the seed of the Qilin medicine might really be taken away, Duanda said. Yifan and the others approached the most central region. This place was vast and boundless. There was an indescribable aura of the great Tao. The divine wind whistled, blowing so many cultivators that they couldn't even stand straight. They were easily turned into ashes. One broken mountain after another was incomparably flat. They were all cut from the great peaks and were almost connected together. The clouds and mist were faintly discernible. The sound of a child's crying could be heard again. The fragrance was intoxicating. In this vast region, the sound of a child's crying was very soft. It was blown away by the wind. Only a few cultivators with profound cultivation could hear it. That dog's attainments in formation runes are getting higher and higher. This kind of maze has its own life. It has reached the acme of perfection. It's almost comparable to the methods of a saint, the monkey praised. All the enemies in the southern region had been wiped out. The people in the Broken Heaven mountain range couldn't possibly know. They didn't sense the approaching danger at all. In just a short while, Yi Fan and the others had already discovered many assassins. They even received Qi Luo's message that someone had brought an inherited sacred weapon. They're serious now. They want to kill me in one strike. It seems that as soon as I appear, a world-shaking battle will erupt, Yi Fan said to himself. An hour later, they were sure that the masters of 3 small worlds had arrived in the human world. They led countless experts. Hell, on the other hand, had 4 layers of Hell Masters come personally. All the people in the small worlds they controlled had come out. There were as many experts as clouds. The divine sons of the human world and the goddesses of hell had also appeared. The inherited sacred weapons would be activated by their Tao protectors and could launch a thunderous attack at any time. Duanda inhaled a breath of cold air and said, "But there are inherited sacred weapons. If this kind of thing comes to life, its power will be boundless. It's 100 times more powerful than that damaged purgatory blood sword." He was a little worried. He was really afraid that the inherited sacred weapons would break through the formation patterns and carve out a bloody path, leading everyone to break out of the encirclement. That would be troublesome. They might even be surrounded and killed. If his heaven-swallowing demon jar truly came to life, it would naturally be easy to shatter the inherited sacred weapons. However, it wasn't complete. Without reaching the saint realm, it would be difficult to control it. He was afraid that the other party would escape. It's fine. The goddess furnace and the scepter of the celestial court are all here. At the crucial moment, you can even place your heaven-swallowing demon lid in the formation. Humans can't activate these few sacred weapons, but the Wuxia killing formation can. It can definitely revive them. Yi Fan said. "How many great emperor killing formations did you make that dog carve?" Duanda asked. "Originally there were 6. I was afraid that something might happen, so I accepted its extortion and made it vomit blood from exhaustion. So I carved a total of 12, Yi Fan said. The hearts of Duanda and the monkey trembled. Each of the 12 killing formations had a corner of the great emperor formation patterns. With so many of them together, even a saint could be killed without a hitch. This was really a big deal. Of course, the requirements for carving this kind of divine formation were extremely high. Otherwise, after a few days, all kinds of Tao marks would automatically disappear in the void, completely vanishing. Not long ago, Yi Fan bought and auctioned wantonly, obtaining countless spiritual items and even divine materials. It was enough to squander, causing the large black dog to bark madly in surprise for an entire night. Hua Yunfei and Li Xiaoman had appeared. Pang Bo sent over such a piece of news. Instantly, Yi Fan's heart trembled and he clenched his fists. However, it was a pity that these 2 people disappeared in a flash. They were very cautious, quickly disappearing without a trace. However, it was good that they had come. There was a chance to kill them. "The celestial imperial prince's people have come," the monkey said. He stared at the 2 figures in front of him. They were definitely experts, only a step away from becoming a saint. "Malicious ghost, I sense the power of a malicious ghost. His true body has come," Duanda said. He frequently roamed the underground ancient tomb, so he was very sensitive to the aura of this kind of corpse ghost. At the same time, Yi Fan saw 2 people flickering with silver light. Even their heads were covered by silver helmets. They entered the center of the Broken Sky Mountain range and disappeared in a flash. "It's them. Lu Yunji and Wang Yan have come." Wherever Yi Fan appeared, it would definitely be the center of the battlefield. Everyone had come for him because he was about to cross the star domain. The enemies thought that someone had set up a trap to kill him, so they all came to attack. "Who dares to harm little Nan Nan?" A loud roar resounded throughout the Broken Sky Mountain range. Yi Fan appeared in the center of the mountain range, entering the former Holy Spirit divine land. The human race's holy physique Yi Fan has come. The Broken Sky Mountain range was in chaos. Large numbers of cultivators appeared, entering this vast region. The killing intent suddenly became many times stronger. Medicinal fragrance flowed, and the center of the Holy Spirit divine land was enshrouded in mist. All kinds of haze flowed about. Yi Fan stood in the center, attracting large numbers of cultivators. Someone attacked at the first moment. It was a blinding light. No one would have thought that hundreds of divine crocodiles would appear at the first moment and attack Yi Fan. Moreover, behind him, a golden crocodile phantom that was tens of thousands of zhang long transformed into a tangible body and also pounced over. It possessed an incomparably powerful might. The divine spirit residing in Li Xiaoman's body is the incarnation of the crocodile ancestor? Pang Bo muttered to himself. He thought back to the scene 12 years ago where a golden crocodile chased after Yi Fan outside the ancient desolate forbidden land. Boom. At the same time, there was a sacred weapon that had been passed down through the ages. It emitted strands of terrifying might and hacked out a beam of divine radiance, slashing towards Yi Fan. Bang! The heaven-devouring devil jar above Duanda's head flashed and appeared. It protected him, the monkey, and Yi Fan beneath it, blocking the two sure-kill attacks. Is everyone who should come here? If it's about time, then resurrect the Wuxia killing formation and kill everyone. Yi Fan transmitted his voice to the Black Emperor coldly. Chapter 886. The huge golden crocodile was like a thick mountain ridge. When it sensed the pressure of the extreme Tao, it immediately swung its tail like a divine dragon and rushed into the sky. The heaven-devouring demonic cover flickered with black light and shot out a strand of Emperor's might, forcing the huge crocodile back. At the same time, killing intent pervaded the air, shattering the divine radiance of the legendary holy weapon and turning it into flowing light. The human race's sacred physique is here, kill him. An old assassin shouted. With a wave of his hand, black-clothed people appeared everywhere and began to carry out the assassination. Moreover, the divine crocodiles flickered with black light and flew over like black spears. They pierced through the void and surrounded the surroundings, attacking from time to time. You dare to be arrogant before an emperor weapon? Duanda's expression turned cold. As soon as he activated it, many vicious spirits nearby trembled and fell down, shaking endlessly on the broken mountain. Just use the heaven-devouring cover to defend. Don't waste too much divine force and don't scare away the malicious spirits. Leave these to me, the monkey said. With a sweep of his rod, corpses and bones flew in all directions. A group of assassins who approached were all killed. Roar! The huge golden crocodile in the sky stabilized its body and spat out a thunderous sound. The mountains and valleys all shook, and there were even some tens of thousands of tall mountains that directly collapsed. Tens of thousands of small crocodiles flew over densely in the sky, turning into a dark sword rain that pierced through the void. Even many assassins were pierced to death. What kind of secret technique is he going to use? Duanda was shocked. This was a divine being from outside this region, so he had to be on guard. The space between Yi Fan's brows flashed with splendor, and a blood sword that was only an inch long appeared. It was like a blood-dripping agate, flickering with scarlet light and glistening. This was the spoils of war from the southern desert, the Purgatory Divine Sword. Streaks of bloody light flew out, turning into sword radiance that entered the group of divine crocodiles. They slashed horizontally and vertically, dicing the malevolent divine crocodiles into inch-long chunks of flesh. Scarlet blood flowed out. Human race's sacred physique, you've walked right into a trap. Do you still want to leave alive? The sound of killing came from all directions as countless experts rushed over. After the tens of thousands of small alligators were chopped into meat paste, they turned into blazing light that surrounded Yi Fan's group. An ancient sacrificial voice sounded. A golden ancient temple appeared. Divine light shone for tens of thousands of streaks, rising and falling within the bloody mud. It released an incomparably dignified aura, turning into endless divine might that suppressed downwards. This is blood sacrifice suppression. Duanda's expression changed. Yi Fan pulled out a formation platform. Inscriptions were carved into it, and there were also many indentations that were filled with divine essence blocks. This was an origin formation that he had spent many days carving out. Even with his abilities he was barely able to set it up. He stood on the ground and shouted softly, "E." Then all of the ancient symbols on the formation platform lit up, interweaving together, activating his incantation together, amplifying it immeasurably. It was as if a great bell was ringing. As soon as the Buddhist incantations were uttered, the ancient temple became unstable. A beam of golden light emerged from within and revealed its true appearance. It was the manifestation of a god from the outer realm. Chi. Suddenly, a beam of divine light slashed over. The Black Emperor had a bad premonition. He activated the Wuxia killing formation, causing it to shoot out a beam of killing light that sliced the blurry golden body in half. In the sky, the giant golden alligator's body trembled. Two beams of dark light shot out from its eyes, but it didn't immediately attack. Instead, it sensed the fluctuations in its surroundings. Human race's sacred physique, you've finally appeared. I've been waiting for you for a long time. Return the lives of my race's children. A voice that sounded like muffled thunder traveled over. An unparalleled great demon appeared in the sky. A black figure so sturdy that it seemed like it could lift the sky with a single shoulder. There were horns on its head and black fur on its back. It stood there like a demonic mountain. This was a massive ox king that possessed the strength of a king tier. Its eyes were as large as copper bells, and its entire body was surrounded by black light. It was hundreds of feet tall, and its fist smashed downwards. This was a king tier of the Herculean ox demon race. It was no different from the legendary ox demon king. The monkey shouted loudly. The jet-black iron rod in its hand swept out, and a deafening sound like muffled thunder immediately rang out in the sky. Don't kill this barbaric ox. I've finally seen a mount that I'm satisfied with. This will be this emperor's mount in the future. The Black Emperor cried out in the dark. He began to control the formation. Divine chains of order flickered and extended into the sky, wrapping around that powerful barbaric ox that resembled a black demonic mountain. Moo! The barbaric ox's roar resounded in all directions. It had unleashed a terrifying sound wave. At the same time, even more enemies appeared. They rushed over together, including some powerful races from the various ancient tribes. Blood Lightning Descent. The experts of the Blood Lightning King race appeared. More than 10 of them used forbidden techniques together, activating a killing formation to suppress it. Boom! It was unknown how many bolts of blood-colored lightning appeared. Each one was formed from laws, and they transformed into an inescapable net that interweaved together. It was blood-red and dazzling, making it hard for people to open their eyes. Not only did Yi Fan prepare a killing formation, there were also others who came to deal with him. Once this blood-colored killing formation was activated, it would definitely be able to kill a few kings. However, it was ineffective against the heaven-devouring devil lid. Even if this half-emperor weapon didn't awaken, there was nothing it could break through. Strands of black light curled up and down, transforming all the blood-colored lightning into mist. The experts of the Blood Lightning King race felt a sense of defeat. They felt like ants trying to shake a tree. They simply had no way to resist that half-emperor weapon. The killing formation was completely useless. Kill? In the Broken Heavens mountain range, the roars of war shook the heavens. Countless assassins appeared. They were the main force this time around. There were 4 Hell Overlords from Hell and 3 World Overlords from the mortal world. Kill? The monkey forced the king of the Herculean Ox Devil race back. He brandished his iron rod and began a massacre. Everywhere he passed by, no one could block him. Broken limbs flew everywhere. At the same time, Yi Fan also began a massacre. The space between his brows flashed with light. That inch-long purgatory divine sword was as translucent as a blood coral. Every strand of killing intent it shot out contained destructive might. Although the blood sword was damaged, it was still a saint weapon after all. At this moment, Yi Fan stood on the terrifying sky origin forbidden formation he created. He wasn't worried that his divine energy would run out and he would continue his massacre. He seemed to have transformed into a divinity. Divine light shot out unceasingly from the center of his brows. He could see mountains crumbling, the sky shattering, and the people being destroyed. With a flash of blood from his brows, a group of powerful enemies would definitely be turned into ashes. Such a formation platform is truly terrifying. In the future, I should carve several tens of them for me as well. There's no need to worry about my divine energy running out. Duanda's heart stirred. Yi Fan sighed. It was easier said than done. Such formation runes wouldn't last for more than a few days before vanishing. Maybe it was too heaven-defying. And every time he carved it, he would have to exhaust his mental energy. Even after a long time, he might not succeed. Woo woo! The blood light that shot out from the center of Yi Fan's brows let out a mournful howl. It transformed into thousands of streaks of blood light that instantly killed hundreds of people. Blood splattered everywhere as lives were lost. This was the Twilight Calamity Song of Hell. A great battle was about to begin, and human lives were cheaper than grass. Boom! All of a sudden, a stone tablet descended from the sky. There were 8 ancient words carved on it. It emitted a devilish radiance and hummed as it pressed down on Yi Fan. The heavenly prince's subordinate made a move. He was a powerful existence that was just a step away from becoming a saint. He personally controlled the stone tablet to suppress Yi Fan. That's the 8th Division Devil Steel. The Monkey King shouted in alarm. According to the legends, the undying heavenly emperor was a deity that was revered by the myriad of ancient races. In the past, he had once conquered the heavens. 8 of his subordinates had died in battle, and almost all of them had been exterminated. He had personally refined the 8-division devil steel, allowing their souls to rest in peace. He had even created a forbidden technique for it. Naturally, the stone tablet in front of Huang Xiaolong couldn't have been personally refined by the Undying Heavenly Emperor. However, the Undying Heavenly Emperor had inherited his technique. The Heavenly Prince had dictated it, and the 2 ancestor kings had refined it. That was how the Undying Heavenly Emperor had turned it into a forbidden artifact. 8 runes shone on the surface of the stone tablet, and each rune represented a type of great Tao. As they rumbled, the entire Broken Heaven mountain range shook. The Purgatory Divine Sword in the center of Yi Fan's brows shot out rays of blood-colored light that slashed at the 8-division devil steel. After all, this was the power of a saint weapon, and it was able to block the 8 ancient runes. The evil ghost is here. Suddenly, Duanda's hair stood on end as he warned Yi Fan. Woo woo, a chilly wind howled and a rain of blood poured down. A yellow whirlwind appeared in the sky, and as the blood rained down, a black devil appeared in the distance. It stood there, taller than the Hengduan mountain range, and it looked down coldly. A god's will of a saint physique. Yi Fan muttered to himself. Didn't he lose 90% of his cultivation and his Tao foundation? Why does he still give off such a terrifying feeling? Duanda muttered to himself. He had never seen such an evil ghost in his life. Don't treat him like a ghost. He's a famous god's will, and he's the hardest to deal with. The Monkey King reminded Huang Xiaolong. 2 mysterious figures clad in silver battle robes appeared in front of the Black Devil. One of them shouted, Yi Fan, do you know who I am? Liyunji, I've been waiting for you for a long time. So many years have passed, but you still haven't improved. It's hard to change your nature. Yi Fan said indifferently. In front of the huge Black Devil, Liyunji let out an angry roar. He took off his helmet and said with incomparable hatred, It's been more than 20 years, and there hasn't been a moment where I haven't wanted to stand face to face with you. I want you to kneel at my feet. I've let you down. You'll never have that chance. This time I won't give you any hope of survival. After today, all of the enemies here will be executed. Yi Fan said coldly. Wang Yan screamed. She threw away her helmet and shouted, Surnamed Yi, just wait for your corpse to be torn into 10,000 pieces. Even the heavens won't be able to save you. Do you still need the heavens? Yi Fan let out a long roar, and like a clap of thunder, he cut through the sky and said, I'll kill all of you by myself. He swept his gaze over everyone present. Saint Physique, your doomsday has arrived. You still dare to boast shamelessly. The 3 realm lords of the human world appeared, and behind them, countless assassins appeared. Everything should end now. The 4 hell lords appeared, and the 4 layers of hell appeared at the same time. Killing intent overflowed the heavens, and the assassins came out in full force. Meanwhile, at the very front were the divine son of the human world and the goddess of hell, as well as their protectors. At this moment they were activating a sacred weapon, the blood-dripping bone pagoda. It was cast from the bones of saints, and it was pure white and lustrous. Streaks of bloody light flowed and twined around it. It was filled with dense killing intent, and it had a total of 5 layers. It belonged to hell, and it was the most precious bone essence left behind by the 5 killing saints. It was cast into the 5-layered pagoda, and at this moment, it was activated by the 2 sects together. It emitted a boundless pressure that swept through the entire Broken Sky mountain range. No one could stop it. This treasure must be left behind for our celestial court to use as a facade. Qi Luo secretly transmitted his voice. He was incomparably excited. All right, everything should come to an end now. Those who should have come. Yi Fan said calmly. Then he shouted loudly, and the 9 Wuxia killing formations were all activated, sealing off this area. Boom. Boundless killing intent erupted like the sea. Strands of killing intent were as thick as mountains as they rushed into the heavens. All directions were sealed, and the power of the killing intent surged like the primal chaos. It crossed the ages and rushed over from the beginning of the world. Chapter 887. What? All the enemies cried out in shock. The aura of an ancient emperor pervaded the air. This was the killing formation of a human emperor, causing everyone to tremble in fear. Everyone present had a bad premonition. A calamity might be right in front of them. At this moment there was no way out. The great formation had locked down everything. White killing intent surged. Pillars of chi pierced through the heavens and earth, forming a chaotic sea of killing. No one could pass through and break out. There's no need to worry. Since ancient times, apart from the great human emperor himself, no one has been able to lay down a flawless emperor's mark. This is just a corner of it. It won't be able to kill us. An old cultivator shouted, calming everyone down. That's right. Since ancient times, who had laid down a flawless great emperor killing formation? No one. As long as it was damaged, they would have the chance to kill their way out. Yi Fan snorted coldly. His eyes flashed with a cold light. He pointed out with his hand and a streak of killing intent flew out from the Wuxia formation. With a pu sound, that old cultivator was sliced open. There are so many of us here. Even the most powerful formation patterns will be smashed into smithereens. Let's focus on one point and kill the Saint Physique. This place will naturally be unsealed. Another person shouted. After the death of a great emperor, there was no way a flawless great emperor killing formation would appear in this world. After thinking through this, no one was that afraid anymore. I'll kill them. The goddess of hell and the protector of the human world activated the 5-layered pagoda together, suppressing forward. They wanted to wipe out Yi Fan and the others in one move. This pagoda was pure white. This bone was the most precious. After transforming into the Tao, all the other bones turned to dust, leaving only the hardest great Tao Saint bone behind. This pagoda was formed from the Tao bone essence of 5 killing saints. After being tempered thousands of times and refined by the ancient saints for countless years, it finally took shape and became the Hell Soul suppressing pagoda. It was a rare divine treasure. It swallowed the netherworld killing intent and descended from the 5-layered pagoda to resist the Wuxia killing formation. It turned into an undying god and swooped down. Its destructive power was unimaginable as it covered Yi Fan and the others below. Suddenly, a golden scepter soared into the sky, representing the will of heaven and earth. Surging killing intent surged like a tsunami, causing the heavens to tremble. What that is? Many of the people present were alarmed. This divine staff had an extremely terrifying killing intent, causing many of the assassins to tremble with fear. This was the first time the scepter of the celestial court released its unmatched holy might. Under the stimulation of the Wuxia killing formation, it completely revived. Normally, no one could use it because its level was too high, different from other weapons. Without the corresponding strength, it was difficult for it to have any life force. But now it was completely different. The Wuxia killing formation shocked the world. Under the stimulation and operation of its world-shocking killing intent, this scepter was dazzling. It was as if it had appeared in the world with a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood, making all creatures tremble in fear. How many years has it been? I've finally seen the supreme artifact of the celestial court shine brilliantly and appear. Zyro was so excited that he was trembling. This is the supreme scepter of the distant ancient heaven? The 2 great assassin courts people were all scared. They recalled those terrifying years. Correct, this is the scepter of the celestial court. Today it will punish you all. Yi Fan roared, activating the Wuxia killing formation. He controlled the golden scepter and suppressed it towards the ancient pagoda. In the distant past, the celestial court firmly suppressed the other 2 great assassin courts. It was the true number 1 assassin palace under the heavens, making the world of mortals and hell have no choice but to worship it. It had been suppressed for who knew how many tens of thousands of years. How did you obtain it? The 2 great assassin courts people said with trembling voices. The destruction of the celestial court back then was greatly related to them. It flew into my hands on its own. Yi Fan activated the supreme scepter and swept it downwards. Countless assassins turned into bloody mist on the spot. The ancient pagoda couldn't stop it either. It rumbled and trembled slightly. He has already established a sect, yet he only has himself, a single person, the celestial court. Many people thought of this matter and shuddered. Correct, I have already established a sect and am the master of the celestial court. Yi Fan shouted and then said, however, it will be different from the past. This will be the divine court, not the assassin court, but the true celestial court. After the resurrection of the celestial court scepter, its destructive power shocked the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Boundless killing intent surged like a surging sea. Everywhere it passed, all the powerful enemies turned into a bloody paste with strands of primal chaos lingering around it. Clang. It collided with the Hell Soul suppressing pagoda. The white Tao bone rumbled like thunder and streaks of bloody light gushed out. The most essential laws of the 5 killing saints appeared, turning into 5 divine laws of order that slashed forward. Truly a good treasure. It can be considered the favorite of the killing saints. We must seize it. Qi Luo's voice trembled as he solemnly instructed Yi Fan. The celestial court scepter, under the activation of the Wuxia's killing formation, was unstoppable. It had its own life and swallowed the essence of heaven and earth. It surged in the primal chaos and struck down the hell soul-suppressing pagoda several times. The sky collapsed and the earth cracked as it wanted to destroy it. This won't do. This is the #1 killing weapon of the Celestial Court. This scepter is innately imprinted with the divine patterns of the Great Tao. It is a heaven-made scepter. Then, it was nurtured by the blood of the Quasi-Emperor and refined by generations of killing saints. It is too powerful. The people of the Assassin Court couldn't stop it. Boom. The Celestial Court scepter flashed and drew out tens of thousands of streaks of golden light. They swept down and overturned the hell soul-suppressing pagoda, causing it to lose contact with those people. Tao friends, what are you waiting for? Let's kill him together and rush out of this place. Otherwise, there will be no hope of survival. A realm lord of the human world shouted. Die. In an instant, this place was filled with battle cries. All kinds of weapons and regulations were unleashed to resist the Wuxia's killing formation. However, it was as if they were rushing to their deaths. Large swathes of cultivators were reduced to corpses and blood. Arg. Within the 9 killing formations, screams of agony rose and fell incessantly. Boom. The 8-division demon steel descended. The 8 large characters on it shone brilliantly and radiated with astonishing divine might. This was a forbidden tool personally refined by the 2 ancient kings, and it was extraordinarily powerful. The void trembled violently. Wuxia's killing intent didn't shatter it immediately. This divine steel was inscribed with the 8 ancient symbols of the undying heavenly emperor, and it was created to commemorate the 8 fallen in battle. It possessed an indescribable Tao power that could affect heaven and earth. Woo-woo, a chilly wind howled. The 8 symbols on the gigantic stone steel were connected to the underworld, and it was unknown what kind of power they had borrowed. The steel was jet black and Tao patterns intertwined, shattering the void. This is a powerful forbidden tool. Destroy it with the legendary saint weapon. The large black dog said in secret. Li Tian and Yan Yishi worked together to activate the goddess furnace, and they placed it within the great emperor's forbidden formation to awaken it. The goddess furnace soared into the sky, transforming into a streak of light that rapidly enlarged. With the support of the Wuxia's killing formation, it was extremely powerful, and it collided with the 8-division demon steel. Boom. The steel crumbled on the spot and rubble flew everywhere. The 8 ancient symbols were annihilated, and 8 black holes were blasted open. They transformed into a turbulent flow of black energy that disappeared completely. Yi Fan pointed a finger, and the goddess furnace soared into the sky. The flames within the furnace surged into the sky, and the group of cultivators controlling the 8-division demon steel were instantly burned to ashes. Only 2 cultivators survived. Their strength was terrifying, but they couldn't avoid the killing formation's aura, and they were slashed into a mist of blood. One corner of the Wuxia's killing formation might not be able to trap so many people, but when all 9 of them appeared at the same time, it was enough to shake heaven and earth and make ghosts and gods weep. Large numbers of assassins died violently, and innumerable cultivators were turned into ashes. It was difficult for them to survive in the heaven-broken mountain range, and they were like waves of wheat that were being harvested. Blood flowed everywhere and corpses piled up like mountains of blood. With every passing minute and every second, a large number of lives were being lost. The 2 divine dynasties had lost their hell soul-suppressing pagodas, and they were like eagles with their wings broken within the 9 killing formations. They couldn't advance even an inch and they were in grave danger. A cold smile appeared on Yi Fan's face. He took out the 1,000 Deaths bow and began to selectively attack. His physical body was peerless, and the instant he drew the bow, the power of the Wuxia's killing formation surged over, and when it was added to the bowstring, it was unknown how many times more terrifying it was. Pooh! An old assassin's forehead was shot by an arrow, and he let out a loud cry before transforming into a mist of blood. He died a violent death. Hurry, let's all sacrifice our divine laws and use the divine chains of order to erase him. A severing Tao expert shouted. At the same time they took action and crazily attacked. Yi Fan saw the infernal goddess. Right now her entire body was covered in blood, and her hair was disheveled. She was protected at the center and she charged left and right, wanting to break out of the encirclement. It's you. After this battle, there will be no infernal goddess. Yi Fan said coldly. The 1,000 Deaths bow in his hands flourished with brilliance, and an arrow of light appeared on the bowstring. Woo! A long cry resounded through the heavens, illuminating the entire heaven-broken mountain range. It was as if a comet streaked across the sky. This arrow was too resplendent, and it condensed the power of the Wuxia's killing formation. One of the infernal goddess's Tao protectors walked up, doing everything he could to dissipate it. The precious shield shattered and the Tao laws were extinguished. It was difficult to defend against this attack, and his body was pierced through. He immediately exploded, turning into a bloody mist. "No, elder!" The infernal goddess cried out loudly, and her eyes were filled with endless hatred. She gave Yi Fan a look, and then did everything she could to break out of the encirclement. "You still want to leave?" Yi Fan continued to draw his bow, gathering the power of the killing formation. His entire body released endless golden light, and he was like a sun that illuminated the heaven-broken mountain range. The second divine arrow shot out, carrying with it a heaven-overflowing killing intent. Waves after waves of raging waves beating against the shore sounded, and the power was tremendous. Even the clouds in the distance were scattered, and the heavens collapsed. Ah! The infernal goddess' other Tao protector tried to block it, but the fate of having his body torn to pieces was still the same. The divine arrow's power was boundless. As long as the Wuxia's formation was present, it could simply kill gods and slaughter Buddhas. "If I survive today, I will definitely make you pay the price of blood, 10 times the amount. You and I cannot live under the same sky." The infernal goddess swore a heavy oath. Her beautiful face was full of resentment, and killing intent lingered around her body. "You have no hope of survival. Today your name will forever be erased from this world." Yi Fan continuously drew his bow. Streak after streak of divine radiance pierced through the heavens, and the Tao protectors at his side were all shot dead. "Ah, no!" The infernal goddess screamed with disheveled hair, but she couldn't change anything. Yi Fan drew his bow and shot the ultimate 9 arrows. At this time, his body swallowed and spat out a sea of killing intent, which gathered into arrow light. His body seemed to be cast from gold, and his killing intent was shocking. Pfft! The infernal goddess screamed miserably. The 9 arrows shot over at almost the same time, piercing through her body and causing her to collapse on the spot. White bones and flesh splattered in all directions. Murderous cries shook the heavens in the wilderness. A life-and-death battle was going on, but the people were still shocked by this scene. They were all stunned. "And you?" Yi Fan discovered the mortal world's divine child in the sea of killers. His eyes were cold, and he released a murderous aura as he drew his bow again. "No!" Many people shouted, but they couldn't stop him at all. Fresh blood sprayed everywhere. The Tao protectors of the mortal world's divine child were shot dead one after another. All of them lost their lives and not a single one survived. He howled like a wounded lone wolf and his eyes were cold. The divine children and goddesses of the 2 divine dynasties were born to kill the various monarchs. They were innately powerful, but in the Wuxia's killing formation, they had become lambs waiting to be slaughtered. "You can go on your way too." Yi Fan attacked mercilessly. Pfft! The mortal world's divine child's face was full of malevolence and unwillingness. Murderous intent filled the sky, but he couldn't change the outcome. A flower of blood bloomed between his brows. A light arrow pierced through and came out from the back of his head, bringing with it a spray of blood and brain matter. Red and white dyed together like a brilliant peach blossom, but it was filled with the smell of blood. "Ah!" He let out a final mournful howl and then his whole body exploded. Both his body and soul were destroyed. Chapter 888. The blood-soaked heaven-broken mountain range was filled with the cries of ghosts and wails of gods. A hellish dirge rang out as blood rained down. This place was like purgatory in the mortal world. The wails of ghosts rang out, echoing through the black-colored mountain range. It was unknown how many people died. Their lives were even more worthless than grass, falling one after another. In the center of the heaven-broken mountain range, the sounds of killing shook the heavens. However, in the outside world nothing could be seen. Boundless killing intent mixed together with primal chaos, transforming into a sea of killing that locked down the central region, causing the hearts of everyone to palpitate. In the battlefield, things were far more terrifying than what people imagined. This place transformed into a battlefield of death. Experts fell one after another, their snow-white bones were stained with traces of blood, a ghastly sight to behold. Wuxia's killing formations were unparalleled. 9 of them stood side by side, shooting out beams of killing light in all directions. Numerous corpses fell from the sky as numerous cultivators were killed, transforming into a mist of blood. The black-colored broken mountains were all connected together. Each of them was covered in a thick layer of blood and shattered bones, causing people to tremble with just a single glance. Not a single body was left intact. And all of this was still continuing. The battle hasn't ended yet, the slaughter was still ongoing. Everyone's eyes were red from killing. It was impossible to talk about peace, they could only fight to the death. Arg! A world overlord from the mortal world screamed. The hope of the ancient god dynasty, the godchild, had died. His primordial spirit was pierced by a divine arrow and his body was blasted apart. Such violence caused him to howl in anger, but there was nothing he could do. Activate the mortal world killing formation. Another world overlord roared. He couldn't escape even if he wanted to. He could only fight with his life on the line. There were a total of 3 world overlords in the mortal world. They each commanded their subordinates to form their sect-guarding grand formations. Killing intent permeated the air, causing the entire world to turn hazy. They wanted to forcefully break out of the encirclement. However, it was useless. Before the 9 Wuxia formations, they were like moths flying into a flame, dripping with blood as they fell unceasingly. Their corpses fell in droves. Yi Fan stood in the center, facing the enemies in all directions. He wielded the myriad slayer's bow and unceasingly shot out arrows, killing one enemy with each arrow. This was a terrifying deterrence that specialized in killing experts. Ah! A world overlord screamed. Under the pressure of the 49 arrows, his defense was finally broken through. An arrow pierced through his temple, causing him to spurt out a large mouthful of blood as he fell to the ground, never to get up again. His body had already turned into a dismembered corpse. The power of Wuxia's killing formation transformed into divine arrows with unparalleled destructive power. Even a king of the Dao-severing realm would find it difficult to block them. Woo-woo! Monkey swung his cudgel and swept across the army. More than 1,000 assassins were crushed into meat paste by the black metal cudgel. They let out a series of tragic cries and died a violent death. Duanda did not kill. He focused on operating the heaven-devouring demonic cover above their heads, blocking the occasional Dao laws and killing rays. Kill. Hell's people also slaughtered their way over. A total of 4 Hell overlords descended, leading experts like clouds. There was no end to this place and there were corpses everywhere. Once the killing array was activated, even if you were a great hero, you would still have to hide inside. There was simply no way out. These people's resistance would only cause more casualties. In the past, we were both from the Divine Court of Assassins, yet you all went back on your word and pushed the Celestial Court into the abyss, trampling it mercilessly. Your actions were too sinister. Let's pay for it with blood. Yi Fan activated the Golden Scepter, transforming it into a golden dragon that swept over. Broken bones and flesh coexisted, and bloody corpses piled up into mountains as they fell down in large numbers. The number 1 killing weapon of the Celestial Court had been revived. Its might was practically unstoppable, enveloping many assassins below. This was a great massacre where blood flowed like a river. And now, the Celestial Court has been reborn from the ashes and is a true divine court, different from the past. Yet you all came again wanting to get rid of me. In that case, all of you can be destroyed. Yi Fan stood at the center of the formation platform. His hands moved about, guiding the Celestial Court's scepter. Under the augmentation of the Wuxia's killing formation, it was resplendent and dazzling. Everywhere it passed by, there was nothing else. Ark! The other 2 realm lords of the world of mortals screamed. Their bodies cracked and without any suspense, they turned into 2 lumps of bloody mist. The people beside them were also disintegrating. The scene was incomparably terrifying. Boom! With a shake of the scepter of the Heaven Court, the 3 groups of people from the mortal world, countless experts, were all killed and turned into a pool of blood and bones. Fresh blood splashed onto the black mountain below, drenching it in blood. In the end, the Celestial Court's scepter turned back and entered Hell. There were 4 Hell Lords and their subordinates there. After losing their sacred weapons, they were like wolves that had lost their fangs and claws. This was a massacre. Golden light swept across and mournful cries rang out incessantly. The song of the dead from Hell rang out. This was the banquet of the Demon King, a song of praise. The 4 powerful Hell Lords died a violent death, their corpses turned into fragments. Under the number 1 killing weapon of the Celestial Court, there was no hope of survival. It was a pity that they cultivated for 3,000 years, using killing to prove the law. Finally, they ushered in a great era where the laws of heaven and earth changed. After untold hardships, they succeeded in severing their Tao, yet they couldn't escape such a great calamity. In the end they were killed. And behind them, there was no need to even mention those disciples. All of them were turned into fragments. Countless people were chopped into pieces, all of them dead. The people from the 2 ancient divine courts of assassins were all killed. The number of people on this broken mountain immediately decreased by more than half. In an instant, the place became much more deserted. Even the sounds of battle became weaker. The scene on the broken mountain caused people's hair to stand. They didn't dare to look at it. Broken bones, severed limbs, heads, blood dyed everything. Yi Fan stood at the center of the formation platform and swept his gaze over everyone. After that, he looked up at the sky and said, "It's your turn now." Above, there was a huge golden crocodile that was over 10,000 zhang in size. There was also a black demonic shadow that was even taller than the broken mountain. These were the greatest enemies he wanted to eliminate this time. Is this the ancient star that all the sages have been searching for? This is truly unexpected. They have left behind too many things. The formation patterns are so terrifying. The demonic voice reverberated like thunder, rumbling in the broken heaven mountain range. The huge golden crocodile that was over 10,000 zhang in length circled. It passed through the killing formations with great difficulty, and was about to dive over. Chomp. All kinds of killing lights appeared, and several killing formations displayed their might at the same time. Yi Fan didn't dare underestimate this kind of existence. A wisp of his divine sense traveled through the galaxy with them. Just thinking about how they had cultivated to this level after more than 20 years was terrifying. Not far away on another formation platform, the large black dog shuddered and said, "Fortunately, it was formed from a wisp of primordial spirit, and not its main body. Otherwise it would be very troublesome. As expected of a foreign divine spirit." "Is it very powerful? What level is it?" Pang Bo asked from the side. "Its main body is most likely difficult to estimate. Since it has the techniques of foreign divine spirits, it definitely won't be easy to deal with," the Black Emperor said solemnly. "Who cares what it is? 9 killing formations activate together. Let's kill it." Pang Bo shouted fiercely. "Kill." Yi Fan, Pang Bo, the Black Emperor, and the others activated the 9 formation platforms together. Wisps of Great Emperor Wuxia's killing intent soared into the sky, scattering all of the blood mist. Clang clang, killing intent surged and chaos surged. Countless sword chi slashed horizontally, slashing the golden crocodile until it was drenched in blood, almost shattering it into pieces. Its body faded and it transformed into the height of a person. It displayed a secret technique that had never been heard of before, and it drew out a starry sky, wanting to forcefully separate the void. "It's useless. This is the Great Emperor killing formation and all techniques are ineffective." The Black Emperor relaxed. Then with a bark he began to do his best to subdue that barbaric bull. He used divine chains of order to restrain the king of the Herculean bull demon race, and said arrogantly, "My battle pet, submit to me. Follow by the side of the great Black Emperor, and your future will be filled with light." The barbaric bull roared loudly. How could it possibly submit? The barbaric bull wave was deafening and it roared furiously. If there were no formation patterns, it would have been able to smack the large black dog to death with a single hoof. Boom. The 10,000 zhang large crocodile turned into human form. Brilliant light shone brilliantly, and Buddhist chanting sounded in its surroundings. It was as if there were 3,000 golden arhats chanting sutras. A golden ancient temple floated up and down, protecting it within and blocking the many killing lights. All types of ancient symbols appeared, covering the surface of the temple and blocking the killing lights. This is a forbidden artifact that belongs to the Buddhist sect. The Black Emperor couldn't help but pay attention to it again. The so-called forbidden artifact could only be used a few times before it would be destroyed. However, it possessed indescribable power, and the divine treasures within it would be difficult to refine unless it was a world-shocking great sect. This forbidden artifact was extremely special. It was a golden ancient temple and all types of Tao patterns flowed about it. It possessed astonishing defensive power, and it emitted a dignified and divine aura. Buddhist chanting resounded through heaven and earth, as if there was a Buddha at the center of the ancient temple giving a sermon. Many Buddhists were making a pilgrimage below, chanting sutras in worship. It had to be said that this golden crocodile was extremely powerful. At this moment, it had transformed into a deity, standing at the center of the ancient temple. There were bodhisattvas, arhats and other corpses beneath its feet, and 5-colored blood dripped down. This was a wondrous scene that represented the events of the past. It made Yi Fan suddenly realize something. He had seen it before during the great battle against Li Xiaoman and Hua Yunfei, and it seemed like it was done by the crocodile back then. It was truly powerful. Formidable. Even though this crocodile was suppressed by the Sakyamuni Buddha, it comprehended an extraordinary Tao after combining with the Buddhist laws. Duanda said in astonishment. It isn't its main body, so there is no need to fear it today, Yifan said. He revived the 9 killing formations and activated the celestial quartz scepter, smashing downwards. An intense collision occurred. Even the Buddhist sect's forbidden artifact couldn't block it. The golden crocodile roared, and that ancient temple slowly cracked apart. It looked like it was about to collapse. Pang Bo, monkey bro, go outside the formation to look for Li Xiaoman and Hua Yunfei. They most likely didn't enter. Kill them without mercy if you see them. Yi Fan transmitted sound, handing over the infernal divine sword that was dripping with blood to Pang Bo. Then he had Qi Luo accompany him to chase after the crocodile. Roar! The divine will of the great completion Saint Physique finally made its move. 108 scarlet stones revolved around his body like holy weapons, blocking the killing light and resisting the Wuxia formation. This is the soul bloodstone. It is extremely rare. Legend has it that it can only be found in the outer space. Duanda was astonished. This kind of stone was the ghost saint's favorite. It could increase their soul power and refine them into terrifying weapons. The malicious spirit was incomparably huge, even taller than a mountain. Lu Yunji and Wang Yan stood on its shoulder, each activating their forbidden techniques, turning into a rain of light that sprinkled onto the soul blood stone. No harm. Yi Fan shook his hand and activated the 3 killing formations he had taken back from the southern desert. A total of 12 formations were activated together. The murderous aura became even more intense, drowning the broken sky mountain range. It was as if the heaven and earth were being split apart, and the primal chaos waterfall poured down. The Black Emperor revealed a fanatical expression and said, "Only like this can there be a trace of the true appearance of the Wuxia killing formation." Roar! The ancient temple that protected the golden crocodile collapsed and finally turned into fragments. The crocodile's incarnation was slashed into pieces and suffered serious injuries. At the same time, half of the malicious spirit's 108 soul bloodstones were crushed into powder. Its body shook violently as it roared again and again. On its shoulder, Lu Yunji and Wang Yan screamed, full of hatred towards Yi Fan. They didn't think that even the malicious spirit would be in danger when it personally came. In the broken sky mountain range, the other enemies screamed again and again. All kinds of broken bones and blood splattered all over the broken mountain and flowed down the black mountain. It was as terrifying as purgatory. Yi Fan's expression was cold. He held the Wand Slayer bow and aimed at the 2 on the malicious spirit's shoulder. What else do you have to say now? You won't live for long. Swish. Swish. Yi Fan directly drew his bow. 2 resplendent beams of golden light shot out, illuminating the entire sky. The 2 people's bodies were destroyed and only 2 heads tumbled down. You are still too inexperienced. The golden crocodile roared and appeared in front of the formation platform with the malicious spirit. It was unknown what kind of secret technique they used, but they were swallowing and spitting out killing light. Their bodies were about to shatter, but they still managed to get close. Your body has finally matured. It is time to belong to me. The malicious spirit's voice caused one scalp to go numb. Is that so? Yi Fan sneered. A small cauldron flew out from between his brows and flipped over. It poured down an immeasurable amount of fire, and the 9 colored flames submerged everything in front of him. A mournful scream rushed into the 9 heavens and into the 9 underworlds. Chapter 889. The 9 colored flames entwined around like mist, binding the black demonic mountain-like malicious spirit and drowning the golden crocodile. This was a fatal attack. This kind of flame could even burn saints, let alone 2 existences that had been suppressed for more than 2,000 years and were no longer at their peak. The golden crocodile screamed miserably. He was a primordial spirit, so he was terrified of this kind of flame. He was burnt to a crisp on the spot. As for the malicious spirit, it was roaring even louder. It was a nether soldier born from a strand of evil will. It was most afraid of extreme young lightning and divine flames, so it struggled fiercely. The 2 terrifying existences were both struggling, but no matter how great their divine abilities were, they were still frightened by this kind of divine flame. They were not at their peak, so this was fatal. Dang. The sound of the bell was long and drawn out. A golden bell appeared above the crocodile's head. It was the only thing that was preserved from the golden temple. At this moment, it covered his body as he rushed into the sky, away from the flames. However, it was too difficult to escape. The Wuxia's killing formation swept out, and the white billows rolled out. The bell was full of holes and was on the verge of collapse. My flesh shell, you have exceeded my expectations, but you still cannot escape from my palm. The divine thought formed by the great completion divine physique roared. His demonic mountain-like black body quickly shrunk. Clang. It was as if a mountain had appeared and suppressed the scene. An incomplete nine-orifice stone man appeared. He turned into a black light and rushed inside. The nine-colored flame was burning, but the stone man did not melt immediately. It could clearly hold on for a moment, which was fatal. He rushed over with one step. Clang. The Wuxia's killing formation displayed its might. The 12 formation platforms released a blinding light at the same time. Murderous intent and primal chaos burst out at the same time, almost breaking the nine-orifice stone man into pieces. However, its methods were heaven-defying. It spat out a black light, smashing a dozen soul bloodstones and repairing it in an instant. It closed in amidst the murderous light. Yes, the one who attacked the Great Shen Mountain was indeed Lu Yunji. He activated this nine-orifice stone man, Yi Fan muttered to himself. Zheng. Sparks flew everywhere from the nine-orifice stone golem. It was on the verge of shattering. However, the black light and the soul bloodstone were continuously repairing it. It looked like it was about to reach Xiaoqian. Don't be afraid. 90% of his cultivation was destroyed, and even his Dao root was taken away. He's stronger than a king now, but he can't compare to a saint. Duanda said, activating the heaven-devouring devil lid to protect himself. Yi Fan snorted and used the Wuxia killing formation to activate the scepter of the celestial court to attack the nine apertures Holy Spirit body that had not fully grown. Pooh! One of his arms was smashed. The divine will of the first-rate Saint Physique finally stopped repairing it. He turned into a ghost and began to dodge. I know, he should be very afraid of your sacred blood. Let the scepter be stained with blood to kill him. Duanda shouted. Yi Fan nodded upon hearing this. His middle finger shot out a streak of blood-red light that dyed the scepter, and he continued to hack at the nine-holed stone Holy Spirit, emitting whistling sounds. You've miscalculated. For more than 20 years, I've been using the essence of the sun to temper my divine soul. I've almost gotten rid of the Yin spirit body, and I'm no longer unable to approach your body like before. Now is the time to take your flesh shell. The divine will roared and hid inside the nine-orifice stone golem. It was close to going crazy, and its roar shook the mountains and rivers. The nine-colored flames that filled the sky were shaken to the other side. He's still afraid. Slaughter him. The Black Emperor shouted. He exerted even more effort to activate the 12 formation platforms because he sensed danger. Boom. The golden scepter almost cut the stone golem in half. Rocks flew everywhere and numerous Dao patterns were shaken out. All kinds of divine laws scattered down, and the spreading waves shattered the sky. It had to be said that when one reached a certain realm, even if one's cultivation was reduced, it was still incomparably terrifying. The golden crocodile and the divine will still had their battle experience and instincts. They passed through the Wuxia killing formation and avoided layer after layer of fatal attacks. The Wuxia killing formation was like a raging sea, and the two terrifying existences were like small boats that could beat them into the bottom of the waves at any time. However, they still didn't sink even after a long time had passed. In particular, the divine will was almost obsessed with Yi Fan's flesh shell. It was determined to obtain it, and it actually had the attitude of cutting off all means of retreat until it reached its goal. It rushed over several times. Awaken the memories of the past life, borrow the fruit of the past life. Suddenly, the black divine will let out a voice that sounded like a curse. This kind of demonic sound didn't transmit very far, but it passed through the Wuxia killing formation and reached every corner. It was incomparably terrifying. At this moment, the nine-orifice stone golem collapsed, revealing that black malicious spirit. However, there was no Yin energy. Strands of golden multicolored light fell down from the top of his head and protected his entire body. At this moment, the divine splendor dyed his entire body golden, and he became incomparably holy. There was no longer a trace of Yin energy, and he became incomparably dignified. Rumble. More golden light surged out from the top of his head, and the terrifying aura caused people to tremble. Even the killing light and primal chaos from the Wuxia killing formation couldn't harm him. At this moment, the world was suffocating, and it was filled with a powerful pressure. It was as if a great emperor had been revived. Oh no, why does he have the aura of a great emperor? Quickly kill him. The Black Emperor shouted. His face was filled with fear. All of this had exceeded their expectations. The 12 Wuxia killing formations operated at the same time, consuming a vast amount of divine source essence and emitting a monstrous killing light. Moreover, the celestial court scepter and the goddess furnace also flew up and suppressed the golden divine will together. Roar, the golden malicious spirit shouted loudly. He suddenly stretched out a large hand and grabbed the golden crocodile that was dodging the killing light in the sky. Then he pulled with both hands and the crocodile immediately collapsed and turned into a blazing light. It was as if hundreds of comets were crashing down at the same time. Old ghost, you are indeed vicious to attack me. However, this is only a part of my primordial spirit. My divine embryo in this world and my main body on the ancient starry sky path will find you sooner or later to settle the debt. The golden crocodile roared, and the entire broken sky mountain range trembled. It was filled with hatred, but it was powerless to change anything. The blazing splendor filled the sky as if it was condensed from millions of stars. The golden malicious spirit had sacrificed the crocodile, and it turned into strands of Tao patterns as if it was summoning something from the netherworld. Then his body became even more resplendent. The top of his head drew upon the 9 heavens and 10 earths, and he was as transparent as a piece of Tao bone. Tens of thousands of divine laws hung down. Boom. An overwhelming pressure spread out, and even the light from the 12 Wuxia killing formations couldn't harm him. At this moment he seemed to have advanced to a mysterious realm. The aura of an ancient great emperor. The Black Emperor was horrified. No wonder that old monk said that the most difficult thing to deal with in this world was the will of a deity. He really was right. Duando was also scared. It was very obvious that they all understood what was going on from the malicious spirit's curse. Awakening the memories of his past life and borrowing the Tao fruit of his past life. This was the recovery of a portion of the divine abilities of his past life's divine physique. The divine splendor cleansed the yin energy. This was a divine physique that emitted boundless light. He was divine and dignified, and even the 9 heavens and 10 earths were trembling because of him. The murderous light from the 12 Wuxia killing formations couldn't harm him at all. They were all annihilated in front of his body, and all kinds of light blossomed like fireworks. His body was curled up by divine chains of order, and he was like an immortal phoenix that had been reborn from the flames. He possessed boundless divine might, and even the heaven and earth were crying for him. All kinds of auspicious lights and colors descended as if they were worshipping a supreme great emperor. All kinds of strange phenomena appeared. Even the scepter of the celestial court and the goddess furnace lost connection with the Wuxia killing formation and couldn't be activated. This was a terrifying scene. Even though the formation patterns were only a broken corner, they still possessed unparalleled destructive power. Even saints would be killed if they came, but at this time, there was no place for them to use their skills. Yi Fan, the Black Emperor, Duanda Yen Ishi Li Tian, and the others felt their scalps go numb. This deity had 90% of his cultivation and his Tao root severed, so how could he still be so terrifying? He couldn't be defeated. This was what everyone felt. Not to mention them, even a group of ancestral kings wouldn't be able to do it. He possessed incomparable battle prowess and had the aura of an ancient great emperor. He has awakened the memories of his past life and borrowed the Tao fruit of a divine physique. After understanding all of this, they were close to despair. This was an existence that could contend against an ancient great emperor. He was invincible in the heavens and earth. Not to mention them, how many people throughout the ages could fight against him? Boom. In front of them, the golden physique trembled, and the last divine splendor descended from the crown of his head. He suddenly opened his eyes, and in that instant, it was as if heaven and earth were being opened. The world trembled and primal chaos surged. The 12 Wuxia formation platforms collapsed, and the formation patterns here were all destroyed. An unmatched battle intent rushed into the heavens, and through the reaction of the heavenly Tao, it instantly engulfed the entire eastern wasteland. At this moment all life trembled. Everyone was apprehensive, as if they had arrived at a divine land and were facing a deity. It was unknown just how many creatures prostrated themselves. It's not that we didn't think it through, but rather that it's too strange and exceeded our expectations. Even if the various ancestral kings came, they would all die with a grievance. Let's go. Even the Black Emperor was terrified. He brought out the chessboard formation patterns that he had prepared a long time ago and was about to bring a few people to cross the void. That was also a corner of an emperor pattern. However, the instant the eyes of the godlike golden figure swept past, the chessboard formation patterns turned into powder and no longer existed. The divine might of the great completion saint physique spread out in all directions, causing the 9 heavens and 10 earths to tremble. At this moment, it was unknown just how many powerful existences were startled awake. They looked at the eastern wasteland's broken sky mountain range in disbelief. Through the heavenly perception and the great Tao, they wanted to understand the truth. Heavens, could it be that someone has proven their Tao? How could it be like this? What kind of powerful existence is this? The aura of an ancient emperor is spreading out. Even the powerful ancestral kings were shaken. They couldn't help but feel their hearts palpitate, and their eyes were filled with fear. All the creatures in the entire Broken Sky Mountain range prostrated themselves in this direction. From the ancient beasts that were several hundred zhang long to the ants, none of them could move at all. As for Yi Fan and the others, if not for the protection of the heaven-devouring devil cover, it would have been difficult for them to stand there. At this moment, they were completely submerged by the aura of an ancient emperor. The devil cover hummed as it was stimulated by this kind of powerful aura. It floated up and down on its own, sending down strands of immortal splendor to protect them. We're finished. At this moment, even a perfect emperor weapon won't be able to stop him. A great completion Saint Physique has awakened. Only the resurrection of a great emperor can deal with him, the Black Emperor said in distress. Duanda said, right now we can only persevere. He won't be able to maintain this state for long. I heard from that old monk that Sakyamuni also avoided the sharp edge and didn't dare to face him head-on. It seems like he also encountered this kind of situation. Perhaps we're not in danger. Yi Fan was in a daze as he stared at the great completion Saint Physique in front of him. He didn't feel any eeriness, only dignity and holiness. Kill them. This was the voice of a deity. However, another type of even more oppressive and irresistible divine will immediately suppress him. The great completion Saint Physique overlooked the mountains and rivers, and his eyes were filled with endless brilliance and sadness. I've returned to the great earth when I was alive, he softly said to himself. He was filled with endless disappointment and frustration, fearing that he would shatter this magnificent river and mountain. I've swept through the 9 heavens and 10 earths, reversing the reincarnation of heaven and earth. So what if I'm unrivaled in the heavens and earth? In the end, I'll have to face the ups and downs of the world alone. I'll have to witness my beauties grow old and die in peace. My loved ones and old friends will all turn into the earth to send them off. Only I'll remain immortal. I chose to leave this place, and after countless years, I'll finally die of old age in a foreign land. I brought with me invincible glory, but also endless sadness and melancholy, he said to himself sadly. The light in his eyes dimmed as he looked at the entire eastern wasteland. Chapter 890. With invincible glory and endless sadness, he watched his beauty grow old and his relatives turn into dust. In the end, he left this ancient star and died of old age in a foreign land after a long period of time. This was the latter half of the Saint Physique's life. It made people sigh with emotion. Behind the halo was sadness, loneliness, and loneliness. Everyone in the same generation had grown old, and he was the only one left in this world. He is indeed one of the 9 great sage physiques, the Black Emperor said. At this time, the entire eastern wasteland was shaken. The various ancestral kings mistakenly thought that someone had proven the Tao. They were all horrified as they gazed at the central region's Broken Sky Mountain range. Resplendent radiance, dignified aura, and the Saint Physique stood there, merging with the great Tao of heaven and earth. It formed an aura that made all living beings want to prostrate themselves in worship. Kill them? A weak divine will was transmitted from the Saint Physique's heart. Yi Fan, the Black Emperor, Duanda Li Tian, and the others felt a chill run down their backs. Not to mention them, even the various ancestral kings would have to run. They couldn't resist. The majestic body turned around and faced Yi Fan and the others. Immediately, the heaven-devouring demonic lid made clanging sounds. Strands of immortal splendor fell down and curled around them. This was the reaction of an extreme emperor weapon. It gave birth to a sense of urgency and threat. No. A cry of despair echoed in the Broken Sky Mountain range. It quickly weakened and then disappeared. The divine will was dissolved. The black malicious spirit's divine sense disappeared. It was ruthlessly crushed and purified by the Saint Physique. At this time, the aura of a great emperor filled the air. It shook the 9 heavens and the 9 underworlds. All living beings had spirits and had to submit. He had the will to rule the world. The great Tao poured down immeasurable brilliance. Strands and strands hung in the sky like waterfalls, surrounding this brilliant and blazing body. All directions were silent. Countless creatures kowtowed in this direction, carrying out devout worship. The malicious spirit has been killed. It's the same as dying by his own hands, Li Tian said with a trembling voice. This kind of peerless Saint Physique had great contributions to the world in the past. He will definitely eliminate the evil thoughts after his resurrection, even if it belongs to his own body, the Black Emperor said. He was more or less relieved. Awakening the memories of the past life and borrowing the Tao fruit from the past life were actually the malicious spirit itself. If it wasn't a summon that transcended time and space, no one would be able to live that long. Once the true self is awakened, the evil thoughts will naturally be purified. Duanda said. He dealt with ghosts all year round, so he had the most say. The eyes of the divine physique shifted, and a great peak immediately turned into flying ashes. A powerful ancient king bowed in this direction. He braced himself and said with a trembling voice, I was just passing by this place and had no intention of offending the divine might. A powerful ancestral king was several dozen li away, but his body was trembling, continuously backing up, trembling with fear. Then he quickly disappeared into the horizon. This kind of power shocked Yi Fan, Duanda, and the others. No wonder the heaven-devouring demonic lid above their heads was humming. It must be known that it was an emperor weapon. This weapon. I didn't have the fortune to see it when I was alive, but I've managed to see it after I die, the first-rate holy physique muttered to himself. In the end, his gaze fell on Yi Fan and he asked, Has the inheritance of the sacred body been severed? Yi Fan's heart was moved. He saluted seriously and said, Senior, please bestow me the technique. Senior, please bestow us the supreme technique. Duanda followed suit, also wanting to obtain the inheritance. A beam of light flew over and sank into the space between Yi Fan's eyebrows. A clear Tao diagram appeared in his sea of consciousness, and he was instantly shaken. This was similar to the technique he had obtained in the past when he obtained the sacred body, but it was more specific and perfect. I've obtained it before. He couldn't help but mutter to himself. The divine physique glanced over, and Yi Fan's heart was shaken. Everything he did in the Green Flood Dragon King's treasury and what he did in front of the stone coffin of the divine physique at the sacred cliff all appeared and were perceived by the godlike existence before him. The human race's inheritance of the sacred body requires divine will to pass through. After death, there are many paths that will be severed. You won't be able to find it through the corpse, the figure of light before him said calmly. Senior, please enlighten me. Yi Fan saluted again. The corpse in the stone coffin on the sacred cliff was undoubtedly a person who had grasped the unblemished inheritance. However, he had died too long ago, and the secret technique from when he was alive couldn't be passed down flawlessly. After entering the Saint Realm, we can use this technique to recultivate every secret realm. This is the capital that makes our physiques invincible. After the divine physique finished speaking, he didn't say anything else. He looked at the mountains and rivers and sighed softly. Duanda, the Black Emperor Li Tian, and the others all scratched their ears and cheeks. They couldn't sit or lie down in peace. They all saluted one after another, saying that they would like to ask the senior for guidance and for him to pass down a Tao technique. Evil thoughts were born after death. Is it because I didn't pass down the unblemished technique? I have an unfinished mission. Now that I have returned to this land, it is finally complete. The divine physique sighed and took a step forward, walking into the distance. Senior. Yi Fan and the others all shouted, but the divine physique didn't respond at all. He took a step forward and the mountains and rivers shook. The wind and clouds changed, and the great Tao interacted with each other, giving rise to all kinds of strange phenomena. Heavens, just how powerful is he? Not even great emperors of the past can compare to this, right? The Black Emperor was shocked. In the distance, a true dragon soared into the sky, an immortal phoenix circled about, a black tortoise opened up a path. Streaks of auspicious brilliance and divine splendor formed a great golden path. The great sage walked on it, disappearing into the horizon. Only Tao light flickered, turning into 9 heavens thunder. Even heaven and earth produced strange scenes for him, acknowledging his unmatched Tao fruit. This was rarely seen throughout the ages and not many people could accomplish this. Where is he going? Hurry and chase after him. Duanda said. The memories of the divine physique's past life were unlocked. That was a boundless immortal treasury. If they could obtain it, it would be equivalent to robbing an emperor's tomb. However, they couldn't catch up at all. The great sage took a step forward and the sun, moon, mountains and rivers all moved in reverse. Tao patterns appeared beneath his feet, and a single step took him hundreds of thousands of li, disappearing in an instant. This type of speed was too terrifying, leaving everyone alarmed. His steps seemed to pierce through the void. That great golden path and all types of heaven and earth miraculous scenes followed him into the distance. Don't chase after him. Even if the various ancient kings came, they wouldn't be able to catch up to him. I think he should want to see these familiar and magnificent mountains and rivers one last time, and then, he will disappear. Yi Fan said softly. He understood this type of state of mind, and it was precisely this type of sadness. That day the eastern wastelands were greatly shaken. All creatures trembled as if they sensed the departure of an ancient great emperor. There wasn't a single one of them who didn't bow in that direction. The divine physique continued forward, seeing many great wastelands. His eyes were filled with endless vicissitudes, as if he was recalling many things of the past. Then he continued on foot, entering Undying Mountain. Not even the various archaic ancient kings dared to set foot here, yet he entered just like that. This shocked an ancient king who passed by indescribably, almost to the point of being stupefied. He entered Undying Mountain. When this news spread out, many ancient kings were stupefied. Several people in this region hurried over as soon as possible to see the results. Within Undying Mountain there were large amounts of great black peaks. The great golden path beneath the feet of the great sage led straight to the central region. That place was surrounded by a mountain range and mist curled about it. It was mysterious and unfathomable, and from ancient times until now, apart from great emperors, no one knew what it was. The headless knight who was guarding this place rushed over. All of the fine hairs on his body stood on end, as if he was suffering from an extremely great pressure. His entire body was about to split apart as he continuously retreated. Retreat let him pass. Right at this time, at the center of Undying Mountain's most mysterious mist region, a cold and emotionless voice rang out. There was an unmatched dignity radiating outwards. The divine physique passed through the mist region at the center of Undying Mountain, walking on foot. It was as if he was reminiscing about the past. He stopped here for a moment and said, "This is the place where we fought before." Then he walked into the distance step by step. Only after a long time had passed did a pair of eyes open in the mist region, staring at his retreating figure for a long time. In another direction, the two ancient kings who were chasing after him saw him pass through. Their bodies went cold and they said to themselves with trembling voices, "He crossed over." A great golden path directly reached the northern region. It was unknown how many tens of thousands of li long it was. Immortal phoenixes danced in the air and true dragons coiled about. It was as if a celestial emperor was traveling. At this moment, all the saints in all directions sensed the aura of a great emperor through the heavenly Tao. There wasn't a single one of them who wasn't shaken. They were all intimidated. The divine physique looked at the mountains, rivers, and great earth. He entered the northern region and said to himself, "The ancient race has awakened. I actually saw this era. Is there hope for the immortal path to be opened? What a pity that I missed it." Immortal ascension. He felt a type of regret, but his eyes quickly blazed with brilliance. His battle intent split the heavens as he swept through the entire northern region. He walked forward step by step, heading towards the places where the blood energy was the most flourishing. He came. He's too fast. He didn't open the realm gates and directly walked over, yet he entered the northern region in an instant. The ancient kings were all shocked. His body really has the aura of an archaic emperor. The divine physique entered the northern region. All of the archaic clans were terrified. Everyone was in a state of confusion, and their hearts were at a loss. His first stop was the primitive lake, shocking all of the emperor clans until their fine hairs stood on end. Ancient imperial weapons floated up and down, ready to be activated at any time. What are we supposed to do? Does the human race really have a great emperor that hasn't died? Who could brave death and enter origin ancient mind to invite an unmatched existence into this world? The people of the primitive lake were alarmed. They almost stopped breathing. The power of the divine physique was too great. He stood on their divine lake just like that, not moving at all. Resplendent radiance illuminated every inch of the lake. A moment later they were on the verge of collapse. They finally released a breath of relief because that terrifying human had left. It made them feel as if thousands of years had passed. Soon after, in front of the Fire Chelan cave, a human figure appeared. His back was facing the ancient cave, and a heaven-overflowing might was released from his body, shocking everyone until they were all terrified. What happened? A human great emperor is actually still alive. An hour later, Blood Phoenix Mountain, Divine Silkworm Ridge, and the other emperor clans were all horrified. That day they all personally faced that human's unmatched might. The pressure was so great that they felt like they were suffocating. He entered the important lands of several great emperor clans alone, making every single clan tremble in fear. What kind of divine might was this? All of the archaic clans were alarmed to the extreme. In the end, the divine physique passed through the absolute beginning forbidden region, shaking up the entire northern region. The kings of all clans were all stupefied. Meanwhile, what shocked them the most was that the great golden path led all the way to Origin Ancient Mine. He walked over just like that. The fire Qilin often came to the absolute beginning forbidden region, and now that he personally saw everything, he couldn't help but widen his eyes, revealing an expression of disbelief. He is going to enter Origin Ancient Mine. Chapter 891. The absolute beginning forbidden land was desolate and lacked vitality. It was a forbidden land that had existed since ancient times. Not many people dared to enter it. In particular, the ancient mine in the center was shrouded in a mysterious mist all year round. No one really knew what was inside. It was a taboo topic that could not be discussed. But now, a golden path spread out. No matter how the space distorted, how the domains surged, and how the great Tao crushed down, it was difficult to stop this immortal great Tao. A resplendent figure stood there, the sun and moon revolving around him. Stars revolved around him, and the true dragon, vermilion bird, and the other four symbols protected him. At this moment, his aura rose to the extreme. The great completion divine body seemed to be deeply aware of how terrifying Origin Ancient Mine was. He didn't hold back in the slightest, fighting intent splitting the heavens, completely operating all of the fighting strength he could currently display. Heaven and earth's great Tao rumbled. The entire eastern wasteland's heavenly Tao resonated with each other, releasing endless divine chains of order, all of them gathering on his body, descending above Origin Ancient Mine. It was as if he had sprouted wings and ascended to immortality, a divine chain appearing from every pore on his body, as if he was reborn through immortal flames. There were 81 true dragons, vermilion birds, and others of every type surrounding it. Brilliant light shone, covering the heavens above and earth below, completely submerging this place. The great completion divine body took a step down the great golden path, arriving in front of Origin Ancient Mine. This was a black-colored mine, devouring the essence of the sun, moon, stars, and all things in heaven and earth. Time passed slowly, and it was unknown how many years it had been since a creature set foot in this place. This was one of the most terrifying restricted areas under the heavens. All races were forbidden from entering. Mother ** King Human King, do you wish to level the entire Origin Ancient Mine? A cold voice rang out from within the Origin Ancient Mine. The ancient mine that had remained silent for tens of thousands of years actually released a sound, making one's soul tremble. If news of this got out, it would definitely shake the world. This was an unimaginable restricted region. Years ago, Yi Fan and Yao Guang Saint's son had mistakenly entered the absolute beginning forbidden area. They were lucky enough to escape a calamity. They had watched this mine from a distance. That night, it had absorbed and released starlight, which had darkened the entire starry sky several times. They had seen some corpses wearing ancient clothes floating in the silver light like a waterfall. Now, the divine physique directly arrived in front of this ancient cave and gazed downwards, personally observing this most mysterious forbidden land from past to present. In the end, the great accomplishment divine body took a step inside, entering Origin Ancient Mine. Vermilion birds, true dragons, Qilins, and others surrounded him. Heaven and earth auspicious colors and other things descended together, bringing in all of the wondrous scenes. At the same time, he unleashed his own phenomenon. It was a phenomenon exclusive to a large success sage body. He entered the Origin Ancient Mine alone. Unfortunately, he had sunk into the ground and no one could see him. Outside the absolute beginning forbidden zone, the fire Qilin was stunned. He stood in the sky and tried his best to open his heavenly eye, but he couldn't see anything. He only knew that the great perfection saint physique had disappeared. The other ancient kings were also here. Their heavenly eyes were even more terrifying, and they could see thousands of miles away. Through the mysterious mist of the absolute beginning forbidden area, they could vaguely see the divine physique entering the ancient mine. Everyone felt a chill run down their spine. He went in. That emperor of the human clan entered the ancient mine that exists forever with the world. Heavens! Does he really want to fight the supreme existence in the immortal mine? The restricted area of absolute beginning immediately became dusky, dark clouds covering the sky. It was as if a giant reversed the reincarnation of heaven and earth, making the Tao laws and other things here completely chaotic. Origin Ancient Mine trembled, taking in and sending out heaven and earth's spiritual essence. Stars actually appeared in the sky dome above. It was clearly daytime, but because of the great changes in this place, there were endless stars flickering about. Endless stellar radiance gathered together, forming a boundless white expanse. It was as if primal chaos was falling down, all of it entering the ancient mine. It was just like what Yi Fan saw that night. The restricted area of absolute beginning entered darkness. Only the ancient mind was bright, within the boundless stellar radiance, mysterious and terrifying. All of the ancient kings in the horizon shivered inwardly, releasing a breath of cold air. They saw a few void figures that rose and fell in the stellar radiance. Some of them were corpses, some of them seemingly alive. That type of ancient clothing made their scalps go numb. Are the human race's emperors fighting in the ancient mind? Origin ancient mind took in and sent out the essence of heaven and earth. There was terrifying power surging, all types of great Tao laws appearing, interweaving there, forming an expanse of immortal light. More than 100,000 years ago, there was a great battle outside the restricted area of absolute beginning, but they didn't enter the ancient mind. Now their long-cherished wish has been fulfilled. This place is formidable, defying the natural luck of heaven and earth. The voice of the great completion divine physique rang through the ancient mind. It was as if he was taking a stroll, observing every corner. It was regretful because no one knew what he saw. In the outside world they could only see that origin ancient mind was like a heaven-opening ancient beast. Each time it took in and spat out, the world would become pitch black as if it would swallow all of the stars in the sky. After a long time had passed, it would spit out again, restoring brightness. Meanwhile, between heaven and earth, all of the essence energy would be sucked dry. Right now, all of the eastern wasteland's essence and Tao marks seem to have gathered here, making all of the ancient kings tremble with fear. Even if it is the human race great emperor, he still cannot provoke and be rude like this, entering deep into origin ancient mind. Are you trying to start a war? An ancient voice sounded, cold and emotionless, possessing a dignity that made all life tremble. Let him go, there is no need to fight. He isn't a living person, unable to exist in this world for a long time. If he takes away half of his life, then it really isn't worth it. Another ancient voice sounded, as if it had just woken up from a deep slumber, not a trace of emotion fluctuating. The ancient mind became quiet again, not a trace of noise left. It was just as quiet and mysterious as before. Only the great completion divine physique was walking about alone. He was like a lonely traveler. With a sigh, it resounded through the entire immortal mind. He bathed in divine splendor, irregular scenes curling about him. He didn't take the initiative to take action. No one knew what he saw. He lingered about underground alone, and only after a long time did he turn around. He stepped on the void, arriving outside the mine. Behind him, a pair of eyes opened, looking at his rear figure. They were ice-cold and emotionless, as if the 7 emotions and 6 desires had been erased, severing all emotions in this world. Who wishes to fight against me? The great completion divine physique said to himself. He stood at the entrance of origin ancient mine, not turning around, standing there without moving. In the immortal mine, that pair of emotionless eyes became even more dazzling, severing all emotions and desires. It was as if it had experienced endless reincarnations, staring at him without blinking. Let him leave. Another voice said. Outside the absolute beginning forbidden region, all of the ancient races were stunned. That human whose entire body was surrounded by Tao patterns walked out from the immortal mine. Every single one of them shivered inwardly. He entered origin ancient mine safe and sound, returning alive. This made the ancient race's various ancient kings feel that this was inconceivable, their souls shaken. After the great completion divine physique came out from the immortal mine, he felt a bit disappointed and frustrated. He shook his head as if he suddenly understood something. In the end, he turned around and gave everyone a final look before turning around to leave. The heavenly Tao rumbled. The great golden path beneath his feet reappeared, reaching outside the forbidden region. He entered the divine city, standing in the sky for a long time. His eyes suddenly blazed with brilliance, passing through who knew how many tens of thousands of li, separately shooting towards the various important places of the archaic Great King clans. At this moment, all of the ancient races were trembling with fear. Not a single person dared to resist. Just how powerful was this power? He was in the divine city, yet he carried out this type of intimidation. It was as if the heavens were crushing down. Regardless of whether it was the nest of 10,000 dragons, Fire Qilin Cave or Primitive Lake, they all felt as if they were facing a deity. Was this a warning? The various races were truly terrified. A long time ago the various races still looked down on the human race, acting high and mighty. Even after the Jade Lake meeting, there were still many ancient races who were unconvinced. There were some among them who didn't believe that great Emperor Wuxia was still alive. And now, a human who was powerful to an unfathomable degree stood above the divine city, his might sweeping through the various races, making them feel like they were suffocating. There was no way they wouldn't believe this. This was the aura of a true ancient emperor. In an instant, it covered the entire northern region. All legends could be fake, but only when one personally witnessed it would it be real. This was the first time the various ancient races felt so insignificant. Such a person could flatten them all. The ancient emperor is still alive? Who exactly is he? Many ancient creatures trembled. He went to the forbidden region of absolute beginning and returned unharmed. Who is willing to brave death and enter to ask for guidance on what exactly happened? Unfortunately, not a single person was willing to go. Only the fire Qilin remained at the border of absolute beginning. All living things coexist, there is a reason for their existence. The divine physique softly muttered to himself, but the fluctuations were like thunder from the 9 heavens, exploding in the sky above the various king races, causing them to shiver. Everything that Yi Fan, the white-robed divine king and the others had done before, as well as the various schemes they had laid down, was far less intimidating than the suppression brought about by the appearance of the divine physique. Boom! A beam of golden light flew up from above the divine city, passing through the entire eastern wasteland and reaching the southern region. The towering immortal light disappeared, and the divine physique walked on foot, disappearing in an instant. In a short moment he arrived in the southern region from the northern region, descending on the great earth. All the experts who learned of this through the celestial perception felt their hearts tremble. What kind of method is this? He went from the northern region to the southern region in just a few steps. What kind of divine ability is this? No wonder the ancient emperors were able to travel between star domains alone. At this moment, even the saints were scared and couldn't help but tremble. On this day the ancient race was scared to the extreme. It could be predicted that in the future, they would definitely lower their stance and would no longer dare to look down on the human race. In their eyes, this was a living existence like an ancient emperor. His aura could swallow mountains and rivers, and his might could suppress the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The divine physique entered the southern region. Some people guessed that he went to the forbidden ancient land, and some people said that he entered the bronze immortal palace. The moment he landed on the ground, all of his aura disappeared, and no one could sense him anymore. No one knew that he had arrived in a mountain range. The sky was filled with pure white flowers as he moved forward. Each one was snow white and flawless, flowing with a faint fragrance. In the depths of this mountain range, there were some mounds that were much shorter than the mountain range. Upon closer inspection, some of them looked like tombs. However, most of them had already been destroyed and almost no longer existed. They were dilapidated and desolate. The pure white petals scattered down and landed in front of this collapsed mound. The divine physique's eyes turned, and it seemed as if it had been thousands of years. His expression dimmed and there was a kind of sadness. "I've come to see you." He stood in front of a collapsed mound and muttered to himself, "I can pluck the stars and capture the moon. I can shatter the starry sky, but I can't let you live. I've kept your immortal appearance, but I can't keep that wisp of your soul." He stood there silently for a long time and walked towards the other mounds that were about to be obliterated by the passage of time. Something like tears flickered in his eyes as he said, "My old friends who once fought shoulder to shoulder with me, my comrades, I've come to see you." The world had changed, and the cemetery he had personally built had long since sunk and disappeared. The brothers who had once gone through life and death with him, his old friends, and his confidants were all resting here. "I've returned. I won't be separated anymore. I'll be with you all forever." In the end, the divine physique turned into a rain of light that fluttered about and entered this mountain range. The rain of light sprinkled into the graves of his confidants and fell into the graves of his old friends who had fought shoulder to shoulder with him.